Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. We are creeping closer and closer to the weekend. That means we are creeping closer and closer to football, folks. That's right. So we'll talk a lot of football. We'll talk about the Longhorns' upcoming opponent, get to know Louisiana Monroe. And for some reason, I have no idea, there's bulletin board material from Louisiana Monroe. From a coach, not even from a player. Usually a player may mouth off, say something wild. No, we got a coach, defensive coordinator for Louisiana Monroe. He's feeling himself. So we'll get into that. We'll hear from him, but also got another quote from him. So Longhorns got some bulletin board material in case you were concerned about them being distracted by their number one ranking. We'll get to that. We'll start off the show in that discussion. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment and talk more about Texas' next upcoming opponent, Louisiana Monroe. It is still not confirmed who is starting at quarterback for the Longhorns, but I think we have a pretty good idea. We'll dive into that conversation too. But of course, NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Big weekend for the Cowboys. Big weekend for the Texans. Texans facing the Minnesota Vikings, one of the hottest teams right now to start out the NFL season, surprisingly so. We'll get into that matchup because I think it's compelling in a lot of ways, especially that Vikings defense with Brian Flores got it clicking against that Texans offense. We'll talk about that. We'll also get into the Cowboys matchup coming up versus the Baltimore Ravens. We'll hear from Mike Zimmer. We'll hear from Micah Parsons as well. And I got a factoid, a stat that does not make me feel good about the Dallas Cowboys their defensive tackles and their interior, the guts of that defense. So we'll get into that. I think it may be a big part, maybe the part of what's wrong with the rush defense for the Cowboys. We'll dive into that conversation. Also, your favorites, of course. We got what the facts, what the stats. We got who said that. We got off the record coming up on the show. We also got your topic for the big fat poll of the day. Rod's rant coming up. That'll be an NFL related rant. So, folks, we are loaded on the show. Glad you could join us. Before we hit any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the Aaron family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure this man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. We did get the news yesterday as we were going off the air that my basketball coverage has to change now because
that was big news.
Adrian Wojnarowski stepping down, going to be back the general manager of his alma mater, St. Bonaventure. Guess I mean, I know it is a stressful job, but you pretty much have to be almost 24/7 on the phone with people and trying to do. I get it's stressful, but I guess he decided it was time to move on.
So you rather go deal with NIL, the transfer portal, and the NCAA?
It is St. Bonaventure. It's not like he went to like a super tough. Yeah, okay. I feel like it's a little bit lower.
Is it not even a mid-major? Is St. Bonaventure not even considered a mid-major?
I don't know.
I'm asking. I don't watch college. I don't watch that much college basketball. I'm not that deep into it. So I don't know the history of the program, the status of the program, and where it is. So did they have any acclaim of any kind in college basketball?
I know who they are.
Seriously low key, we can just go away for a while. And
I don't think it would be a big deal if they were mediocre. But I mean, I think
there you go. So no pressure, no expectations.
No, I don't think so. And now the good news is he'll be able to have more connections and be able to talk to people to say, no, I actually do know pretty much everybody in the NBA. And
that's true.
So like it is for people that coming in, I'm sure it's a positive thing for the players they can get. So and wish them the best. Go have a great time. You know, you can have whatever. But yeah, that was it's going to be interesting to see who they try and put in that role on ESPN now, because that is a tough role, right? And there was always a battle between Woj and Shams.
Yep. To be first
on everything.
That's the business, right? That's the business is to be first.
Shams gets to just take his time now. Just
there's got to be somebody out there that's like in that industry that's trying to come up. I mean, but you're right. We don't know of that person because you're right. There's only two guys that you really consider to be, the go-to names and brands for that kind of breaking news. So
the ones you follow on a trade deadline day or on
yes, you literally are just staring at their account, just waiting for it to refresh.
Yeah, free agency, and that free agency comes around, you just stare at that. Yeah. So I don't know.
It's like it'd be like if Schefter decided that he wanted to, leave for the NFL. Like there's some guys who do that, but Schefter's he's known for it.
I mean, Schefter was the one who broke the news that he was going back to St. Bonaventure.
Okay, did Schefter break the Woj news?
Yes, because Woj just posted on his thing basically a thank you.
Okay.
And then Schefter 5 minutes later posted a thing saying he was going to St. Bonaventure.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's yeah, I mean, it was surprising news. I remember, yeah, I was like, wow, okay. So it's a highly stressful job. And you know what? Ain't nothing wrong with a change of pace. He's still involved with sports and the game that he loves.
Yeah.
We talked about that before. Sometimes you got to change your relationship with the game because it gets toxic. And that's, you know, that's anybody probably with your profession. But when you obviously are that connected to a game like that, and, you know, and obviously it becomes your profession, just like it was for me. I could, you know, I can't play football forever, but I can still be around the game in some capacity, whether you're coaching or whether you're covering the game. So for him, he just found another way of being around the game. And he just needs to, as long as you maintain that relation, that connection to the game, you're okay. You won't go insane because obviously it's part of your DNA at that point. So he's got just a different way, and I'm sure it's gonna like revive him because now he's got a whole new like challenge ahead of him.
New challenge.
Pretty cool.
Don't have to travel as much. Probably going to be around his family a little bit more is always a positive thing. So
no, I get it. I totally get the appeal. Some people are probably like, that's crazy. I get it. Yeah. He's probably made real good money up until this point and hadn't gotten any chance to enjoy it. I'm sure he's still going to be busy doing what he does.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It'll be a change.
It'll be that point. You're like, I already own my house. I already own this. I own enough stuff. So now I can go do this. I'll still make decent money and I don't have to worry about it as much. So, but it'll be an interesting as basketball season starts to ramp up here in a month or so.
Who's going to fill that void?
Who was going to fill that void? And can they get close? And what can we call it? Because Woj bombs. The Woj bomb is over. Woj bomb is over.
Yeah, you're right about that. The Woj bomb is, well, maybe it'll change now. Maybe it's something else now.
It will be.
Maybe he has his own Woj bomb, like recruiting or something. He's like, I got a Woj bomb, baby.
There you go.
Break it.
Let me tell you who's not quitting. My co-host, he's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
All right, brother. I appreciate the intro as always. A lot of stuff to get to on the show. Got some Cowboys stuff we're going to talk about. Got some lots of Texan stuff we're going to get into as well. And we'll start off talking about the Longhorns. I don't know why there's bulletin board material. I didn't expect this. I expected, you know what, you'll be pretty nondescript. We'll have to find some stuff to talk about. I'll be doing some digging, try to find you guys a really good storyline. Nope. Defensive coordinator just lofted it up there for us. So God bless the man. So we'll get into that. I wonder how his head coach feels about it, but we'll get into it. Actually, that defense is not bad. They actually got a couple of playmakers on their defense. So maybe he's feeling like, you know, he might surprise some folks. All right. So we'll get into that. Like I said, later on, we'll dive into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Hear from Mike Zimmer. We're going to hear from obviously, Micah Parsons talking about their performance versus the Saints and going forward, what can we expect from that Cowboys defense? We'll talk about it. I think one of their big problems may be just right at the point of attack at the defensive tackle position. Remember the defensive tackles they signed, Linval Joseph and Jordan Phillips. And remember, Mike Zimmer said literally to the media, I need D tackles. And like a couple of days later, they started signing D tackles. Well, I think maybe there was a little bit more urgency to that statement, and the guys they brought in, not sure if they're doing the job. And I got a couple of numbers that'll back that up, but we'll get into that. We'll start off talking Texas football, go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment, so you'll get to know Louisiana Monroe a little bit. But before we do any of that, let's get you updated. Let's get you educated. Let's get you informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros lost their rubber match game with the Padres 4-0 yesterday. While Framber Valdez was able to go 7 innings, striking out 6 and only allowing 1 run, Dylan Cease pitched 8 1/3 innings for San Diego, only allowing 2 hits. The Astros now move on to a 4-game series with the Angels starting tonight in Houston, with Yusei Kikuchi getting the start for the Astros. The Rangers won the second game of their series with the Blue Jays last night, this time with superb pitching, shutting them out 2-0. Cody Bradford pitched 7 innings with 6 strikeouts, and Adolis Garcia hit a 2-run homer in the 6th to put up the only runs of the game. The Rangers will look to sweep Toronto today, with Kumar Rocker getting his second major league start. And in college football, Major Applewhite South Alabama Jaguars will try to follow up an 87-10 win last week as they try to take on Appalachian State tonight. And in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets will take on the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football. And that's your Horn Headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. We agree. If the Jets don't take care of business versus the Patriots, then they may not be exceeding expectations this year. The Patriots, that's kind of one of those limits. You got to be able to beat the Patriots. I'm not saying they're a pushover because they beat the Bengals.
They beat the Bengals. They went to overtime with Seattle.
Exactly. So not a pushover, but I think you got to find a way to win that game if you're the Jets. I mean, you got to face that team. That's a division foe.
You got to find a way to win a lot of games if you're the Jets.
That's to me is one. Not because some of them I think, I don't know. I just think you got to face them twice. Is hard. Yeah, you got to find a way to at least split those games with them. And the Patriots should be a team that you beat if you're going to consider yourself a playoff team. I think you got to find a way to beat. That's why we were all shocked that the Bengals lost to them. We're like, Bengals, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, did you like it? I know we all maybe underestimated the Patriots considering the offseason they had and all the changes, but they're still an NFL team. And it seems like the Bengals just went up there and went to sleep. But the Patriots have found a way to just stay in games. They're just standing. They play ugly. They just play an ugly style of football now. They're lining up in like 22 personnel and with power sets, just handing off the football and trying to shrink the game. And their they still got a defense, by the way. And they got a defensive culture, right? Coming from Belichick now to Mayo, they play good defense still in New England. So that's something that keeps them in games. So we'll see how that matchup goes tonight. All right, let's hit this unexpected bulletin board material from Louisiana Monroe, DC, Ernest Hill. That's his name, and I don't know why he decided to say the quiet part out loud, but he did. So he was talking to the media about Texas. I got a quote I'll read after this. And it's a quote actually about this is the quote actually, which we don't have the audio of. That's probably the one that made the most headlines. But here's a quote of him saying that Texas won't be as prepared and focused for Louisiana Monroe as they are for their opponents.
Texas, they know they playing against a mediocre group of 5 team. Let's be honest. They're not going to prepare like they normally do. That's why we are. And we're going to try to go do our best and, see what the chips fall.
Honestly, he might have had a good point if he didn't state it out loud. He might have had a chance of a distracted Texas who was feeling real good about their number 1 ranking and probably were distracted. But after that comment, I guarantee you'll get a more focused Texas. Here's another comment from the DC Ernest Hill. He says, this is in regards to him answering the question about Arch Manning, I believe, possibly starting that game. Not confirmed yet, but we all believe it's pretty much a done deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it came out today in the media availability.
Yeah, it could. And they have those availability reports, which are basically injury reports.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, so I'm with you. I don't know what we're waiting on, but I guess it's forcing them to have to prepare for both, which is a smart move. So, but I think we all know that, it's pretty much it's done deal. Foregone conclusion that Arch is going to start that game and Quinn is going to sit. But here's what the DC had to say in addition to the comment we just played. Quote, and this is about Arch Manning. Quote, we actually have some kids on our team who played against him in New Orleans, and a couple of guys done beat him already. So they don't hold too much fear against him. So they're not going to hold any fear against him coming up here. There you go. So he's got some guys. Now, shout out to Danny Davis of the Austin American Statesman. Get a shout out to him because he's a real journalist. So he actually did the research on this statement. And I'll give him props because he tweeted this out last night. He said, for what it's worth, Arch Manning lost to 5 Louisiana high schools and 1 Florida school over 4 years at Isidore Newman. Of the Louisiana and Florida products listed on the ULM roster, none of their listed high schools were one of those schools that Arch lost to. Hashtag investigative reporting. So based on Danny Davis's research, coach may be, mistaken there about a little inaccuracy. So maybe last year, I don't know, look at the roster last year, maybe this is the case, and he was thinking about the last year's roster, whatever. So I don't even know. So his main statement, which has become bulletin board material, and him taking a very kind of subtle, discreet jab at Arch Manning, it wasn't even true. So I don't know why would he, as a coach, find a way to motivate Texas? I don't get it. I don't know what his motive is, I have no idea.
I don't know if he
threw it
knows
out there.
this. This might help him out.
Mm.
It is a team game. And
Yes.
some of these players with Arch right now, probably a little bit better than his teammates in high school. Just gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna go out on a limb on this
safe
one.
To say. Yep. It's safe to throw it out there. Yeah. I don't know what Ernest Hill is. I don't know why Ernest Hill is doing this. I don't know. Ernest Hill's got a decent defense too. Ernest Hill's got some pretty good players. They won't be able to show that against Texas because Texas is the talent disparity and talent gap is too large. But they got a couple of players who actually, we'll get into it. We go behind the burn-ons curtain, get to know Louisiana Monroe a little bit. But they actually do have a couple of players on defense. So maybe he's thinking, hey, we could go in here and make some plays early, keep this thing close. I have no idea what's motivating their defensive coordinator, Ernest Hill. But that's the bulletin board material. Little shot at Arch Manning. And then saying Texas won't prepare the same as they do for other opponents because he called his team mediocre too. Did he? Can we hear that again? Didn't he call his team mediocre? Did he say a mediocre?
I think he thinks Texas sees them as a mediocre.
Can we hear? Let me hear it again. Either way,
they know they plan on, against a mediocre group of 5 team. Let's be honest, they're not going to prepare like they normally do. That's why we are, and we're going to try to go do our best, and see where the chips fall.
He says Texas know they plan against a mediocre group of 5 team. That's what he said. He didn't say. He said Texas believes. He didn't say that. He said Texas know. He said Texas knows they're playing against a mediocre group of 6. I was like, so he literally just called his own team mediocre as well. Like he know they're playing against a mediocre group, and so I don't know why I don't know what's wrong with Ernest. So we'll see if Sark tries to be aggressive early because of Ernest Hill's comments and try to throw those Arch comments back in his face as well. That's fun though. I'm glad he did it because there wasn't a lot of appeal to the ULM game and not a lot of storylines. And maybe that's why he's doing it, damn it. Maybe he understands that, hey, you know what? Nobody cares about us right now. All they're talking about is Texas. He said, this will be the only time nationally that anybody even mentions ULM. They won't even mention us nationally any other time during the year, ever. Not going to happen. All right. We gonna only be mentioned maybe regionally. Locally is our best bet to be mentioned. Like nobody gives a damn about us.
Yeah.
But this is the one time where nationally people will be looking up ULM, doing research about us to see because we're playing the number 1 team in the country. People are like, well, you know what? Let's see what that line says. 45. Let me see if that's ULM team is how good they are. It's the only time their hits are probably going through the roof right now. They're right. Their impressions going through the roof. Like, damn, man, we're getting so much love right now. People are just really paying attention to ULM. Yeah, because they're playing the number 1 team in the country. They won't play a team with a higher profile all year. So maybe Ernest Hill's like, this is my chance. Nobody knows who the hell I am. I need people to at least pay attention to me. And it's any publicity is good publicity. So it'll help him and for his team. Even if he's talking trash, people will pay more attention. People will tune in. I mean, Deion Sanders showed you that. Talk a little trash, get a little petty. People tune in for it. They do. We enjoy petty. So maybe that's his goal. Maybe he just say, hey, no, I need people watching my team, paying attention to it, even if it's going to be an Old Testament, old biblical style butt whipping. He said at least people will be, they'll know more about ULM. They'll know him. I know him now. I didn't know who the hell he was.
I feel like that's a head coach's job to do, not a coordinator.
That's why it's rare. That's why I think he's like, I want their attention. For me, I need people to pay attention to me.
Did he call a conference himself? He's like, guys, DC got to talk.
Have you heard the head coach? I haven't heard anything from the head coach.
People he's thought not crazy.
When I saw it on Twitter, people were mistakenly saying he was the head coach. He was like head coach of ULM. And I was like, really? That's not the head coach. And it's not the head coach at all. The head coach is like Brian Vincent or something like that. I'll get it in a second. But there's not. But people now are talking about him, not the head coach. So I think his I don't know. Maybe his theory is, hey, people will finally know who I am, and then people will start to maybe recognize that I'm a decent DC. He actually, like I said, what did I say? He's actually got some decent, a couple of good players on his defense. And like I said, now I know who the hell Ernest Hill is. That's the only thing I can think of, Patrick. Other than that, this is like a suicide mission that he's on here. Like, I don't know why this is some kamikaze stuff. What are you doing? Like, you're going up against one of the most prolific offenses in the country, and you're now baiting them to show off Arch Manning, who scored 5 touchdowns and 29 plays against a UTSA team that probably would beat you by 21 points. UTSA is a better team than ULM, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm just watching the film. I think they probably would beat them.
But I mean, it's also they beat Michigan by double like they've already made it a defense that's really, really good with NFL talent, like top picks, first round picks on it. Look, not as good. I wouldn't come out and be like, they're not afraid.
I'm excited now. Good for you, Ernest Hill. Good for you, man. Don't you be scared of Sark and his prolific offense. Don't you be scared of Arch Manning and the Manning, the first family of football. Ooh, don't be scared of him, Ernest Hill. You show him.
I do like that he goes, they're not going to prepare, so we will. Like, yeah, you should. You should prepare.
Come on, guys. I got to enjoy this. This is fun. I'm glad. As I said, there was nothing to talk about with you. I'm not going to lie. I think.
No, he gave us something.
Oh, man. Good for you, Ernest Hill. Like I said, now I'm doing research on Ernest Hill. What's his background? Where is he from? You know what I mean? What makes him, have this much swagger as a defensive coordinator?
I don't know.
He's gonna be pumped in that game. He's gonna be pumped. If his team makes one play, he's gonna be on the sideline just going crazy.
Dude, if I was ULM, I would check the facts on his resume right now. Like, that sounds like a guy who lies on his resume.
Oh man, like I said, it's fun. Yeah, Brian Vincent is the actual head coach. I wonder how Brian Vincent feels about this statement that he made. These bulletin board material he threw out there. Brian Vincent, he's the ULM head coach. I haven't heard anything from him.
You know what I imagine though? I imagine there's a certain amount of you say this stuff, but you probably say this stuff way more. And like you said earlier, it doesn't get any coverage or any traction.
Yeah,
so you're just kind of like, oh, what do you care? Yeah. Wait, it's going to be in the newspaper. Like, that's fine. And then
and the local, the whatever it is up there in Louisiana.
And then all of a sudden you see it's like, why is my name trending?
Why is Paul Feinbaum talking about me?
Oh no.
Yeah, that's a great point, Pat. Actually, that's probably the best theory, the working theory is that he does this all the time. But now the increased spotlight because he's playing the number one team in the country. So he probably does this every week and nobody cares. Because you're right, it's ULM, and now, you didn't go on viral, Ernest. Good for you.
Well, he can't be doing. You can't let the DC talk every week, can you? Like Sark,
why is he talking during the Texas week then if he's not talking every week?
I don't know because Sark has the coordinators talk preseason,
twice a year, it's
preseason and pre-bowl game, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Preseason and then right before the bowls, he normally has them.
I think you're right. Yeah, that's it, and. Yeah, I assume it's every week. Otherwise, why would you be like, you know what? It's the Texas week. Hey, Ernest, get out there and do some media. Like, no, you're not gonna do that. It's an every week thing, I'm assuming, with Ernest. And maybe that's why your theory makes sense. That's why he does it, because he's good at it. And they're like, man, the media likes you. You're good at it.
Yeah.
You always throw out some witty quote for the paper. So Ernest, keep doing your thing. And this time Ernest went a little too far. I love it. All right. Thank you, Ernest Hill. We appreciate that. All right. So we'll get to know Louisiana Monroe and Ernest's defense. Ernest Hill's best that he's got over there. And actually, he's got a couple of good players, which we'll get into. We'll talk about Louisiana Monroe, what they are trying to accomplish versus Texas. And also we'll talk about Texas, what their game plan would be defensively. They're a unique offense in that they're going to be a heavy run-oriented offense. If you get them in second and long, good night. Like, it's over. Like, that's what kind of offense we're dealing with. Remember I told you that Michigan was going to struggle throwing it vertical on third and long? Even more so. They're even more so vertically challenged than a Michigan team was, and of course don't have the talent that a Michigan does. And they want to run the football. They got 3 backs averaging close to 5 yards per carry or more, and General Booty, who's the starting quarterback, they just want to put him in third and short where he doesn't have to throw the football, or third and short where if he throws it, it's a quick slant hitch, quick out. They ultimately, they're going to force Texas into a lot of what Michigan did, which is base personnel. I mean, there's no need to really play a sub packages or nickels versus them. They're not going to spread you out too much. They want to run the football. And this is another good test for Texas because they've been having to transform week to week, right? The Colorado State was an air raid team. Michigan was a power running team. Then you go to UTSA. UTSA is a bit of a hybrid spread scheme, if you will. And then you're going to go back to another running football team. And then, and then to start off SEC play, you're going to play another air raid team. Jeff Levy, you're going to play the veer and shoot. So I think the start of the schedule actually would give another defense problems. But because this defense is so versatile and so malleable, they actually just kind of been shape shifting from week to week, being whatever they need to be to take away an opponent's identity. And they'll do it again versus Louisiana Monroe. They'll try to force Louisiana Monroe to throw the football, which is something they don't want to do. They don't specialize in that. That's not their expertise. All right, so we'll get into that. We'll talk some Texas football, get to know Louisiana Monroe, and talk about Ernest Hill's defense. Yeah, I'm gonna give Ernest Hill some props. I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna make sure people know who you are, since you gave us a great storyline. We had nothing to talk about with this damn matchup, so we'll talk about Ernest Hill's defense. Ernest is finest. All right, hey, remember the old Ernest movies? Remember those? Remember the Ernest Goes To movies?
Yeah.
Oh man, I forget his name, but he did everything. Ernest went to jail. Ernest went to, I don't know if he went to space. Ernest went camping.
Ernest went to Africa once, and it was questionable.
Ernest went to Africa. Yeah, that probably was back in the day. That probably was not politically correct, but he was
Jim Varney. Jim Varney is the guy's name.
Jim Varney. It's Jim Varney. Okay, there you go. I actually had no idea what his name was, but I know he made a lot of money off them Ernest movies, and I don't know why. That's the most famous Ernest that I can think of. Right? Is there more famous Ernest?
There's got to be a more. I mean,
than the Ernest that went. And you know what? Ernest, one of those names, disappearing. You don't see any young Ernests out there. What's the last? You know a young Ernest?
No, because of Ernest Goes Everywhere. You're gonna name a kid that now?
What do you mean you can't? No, what do you mean? That's still the Ernest was a decent. At one time, was a very popular name.
It was, and then they made a bunch of movies where he's an idiot.
Oh, that's true. Good point. That could have had a drastic effect on the popularity of the name Ernest. This is true. One of those names that used to be very popular back then, like Ethel. And I never met a young Ethel. Like you're not gonna meet a young Ethel anymore. Just doesn't happen. Gertrude, no young Gertrudes out there. Gertrude and Ernest, they used to get married back in the day. Gertrude and Ernest, boom, having the wedding. That was
the only other Ernest I find is Ernest Borgnine. It's your other.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's
okay. There you go.
I'm saying that maybe that's why Ernest Hills. That's what he wanted. He's like, dude, there's not a lot of famous Ernest out there. I can put my name in lights. He one of the most well-known Ernest out there.
Hey, CDC, put it in drone lights.
Put it in drone lights. Yeah. Make a shirt. Ernest Goes to DKR. And just show him getting whipped. Just show him getting whipped. General Booty. Getting whipped out there. Just like Ernest Goes to DKR. That sounds like an adventure. All right. All right, let's come back. We'll get into a Texas football discussion, go behind the burn orange curtain. We'll get to know Louisiana Monroe a little bit. All that more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Let's get to know the ULM Warhawks, the Longhorns' upcoming opponent. We were just talking about Ernest Hill. Oh, by the way, yeah, most famous Ernest of all time, or at least in American pop culture, Western pop culture, Ernest Hemingway. So, but this goes to my theory: Ernest back in the day, everybody probably was like, Ernest Hemingway, naming their kids Ernest after Ernest Hemingway,
Yeah.
and then Ernest goes to jail and goes to Africa, and then the popularity of the name just takes a nosedive. And I think they're just saying that. I think that's the reason. Oh, shout out to my man CB who sent us some pictures of Ernest Goes to Africa. I haven't seen them yet, CB. Hope they're politically correct.
They're not. Don't worry.
They're not. Oh no. Oh, I hadn't. Oh yeah. Actually. Oh man. Yeah. I didn't realize. Man. Yeah.
I told you there's some questionable decisions making in this.
No. I didn't realize that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I remember actually I'm pretty sure I saw one of those Ernest movies like in a movie theater at one point. I'm pretty sure maybe I actually went to a movie theater to see an Ernest movie, which says a lot about my parents. That ain't me. That's on them. And we need to judge them for that. Anyway, getting back to the reason we're talking about Ernest out there is because Ernest Hill, who is the defensive coordinator for ULM, I don't know if he was talking some trash, but he's feeling really, really good about his defense in this matchup because he threw out a bulletin board material, for Texas in this matchup. And I started to do some research on him. So he's been the safeties coach and the defensive coordinator just this year. This is his first year. He spent 2 seasons as the nickel and kind of safety and star coach, slot corner coach at UAB. And then before his time at UAB, he was like running backs coach at South Alabama during the 2021 season. He was head football coach at McGill Tulane Catholic High School in Mobile and guided them to a 40-8 overall record and a state championship in his first season. State championship appearance, I should say, in his first season. So he's a fast riser. So he's been on and he's had success, where at the stops that he's been on in a short time. So he's probably feeling himself in this matchup. The other coaches are probably like, dude, no. He's probably like, no, man. My group gonna show up. We're gonna make some plays in this game. And I will say this as a DC right now, if you just look at scoring defense, they're one of the top 25 best scoring defense out there, and I ain't played anybody. But so his defense is relatively at least capable. And the rushing yards, they're really good rush defense. I think they're also top 30 in rush defense, top 35 in total defense. Where they have shown some, at least early on, because they haven't played anybody really, actually nobody of Texas's ilk, but they have given up some passing yards, so they're around 63rd in the country in pass defense as a whole. But the players that I think, at least kind of based on some of the research, and I got a chance to watch just a little bit of Louisiana Monroe. It's actually hard to find Louisiana Monroe film because they just don't have a lot of stuff out there other than highlights to actually watch an entire game. They do have a really good pass rusher so far. Well, at least he's shown that. His name is Pullen, Billy Pullen. He's a name to watch for, apparently, and actually he's from Texas too. So shout out, there's a Texas connection here. He's from Kaufman, Texas. Went to JUCO. Was the JUCO Defensive Player of the Year last year. Had 14 sacks. Already got 3 sacks in 2 games. Remember what I told you guys about pass rushers? It's natural. Like it's a God-given thing. It's programmed early. You can't really teach and develop pass rushing skills. Guys either got it or they don't. Who's the Texas best pass rusher right now? Colin Simmons. And he's a baby, right? Last year it was Anthony Hill and like Byron Murphy. And Byron Murphy's a D tackle, but he just knows how to rush the passer. Some people got that ability, and some people don't. It's a combination of skills and with BGO and hip bend and flexibility, timing. Some people have it, and some guys don't. Doesn't mean you're not a good player if you're not a natural pass rusher. But in my experience, that it's something that's innate. and this kid's got it. Like he's just naturally a good pass rusher. So Billy Pullen is the name to watch. He's got 12 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, got 3 sacks already in 2 games. And last year had 14. Yes, at the JUCO level, but he was the JUCO Defensive Player of the Year in that regard. So he's a good player. Also, I like the safety, Wydett Williams Jr. I think he's a good player. And by the way, the Billy Pullen kids, I think has got a chance, potentially if he continues to get better, because he won't stay at Louisiana Monroe if he's really good. I mean, honestly, the truth is, and they know that, if he gets double-digit sacks at Louisiana Monroe this year, somebody's gonna pick him up. He's gonna be playing for UTSA, or hell, somebody even bigger than that. Like he'll go to a higher level next season. And if he continues to show that he can play and just be a natural pass rusher and still make those splash plays at the higher level, honestly, he's got potential like an NFL ceiling I think he'd have to be like an outside linebacker / because he's 6'2", about 250. So maybe a little undersized, but he really can. He can rush the passer. We'll see versus Texas. If he makes some plays versus Texas, then you're like, okay, yeah, that guy, he might have a chance. Texas might start looking at him. Another player that I like that I think is a really good player for them is Wydett Williams Jr. He's a DB. He's 6'2", 200. He's got good size for a DB, and they use him in a lot of ways. He's a junior, but he's got an interception already. He's got already got a pass deflection in coverage. He's got a sack already. Like they use him in a lot of different ways, and I've seen him like at the safety and at the nickel. He's a good player for them. I think those might be in my opinion, the 2 best players. They got Carl Glass is their leading tackler, and he's a veteran. He's a senior, so they do have a veteran presence and the heart, kind of the center of the defense, and it's him. Those are, you look for the guys that are going to make plays on defense for him. To me, those are 2 of the top guys, but the defense does play really well as a cohesive unit, and maybe that's why Ernest Hill's got some confidence going into this matchup that, hey, his guys can make some plays against Texas. And so we shall see. I think ultimately, though, because they've made a lot of splash plays. I mean, they have on the season so far, just early on, they got 3 forced fumbles as a defense, 2 fumble recoveries. Already they have one that Colin Vigors for them has scored a touchdown on defense already, a cornerback. So he got a pick 6, and then they got Whitey Wilson. They got 2 interceptions on the season and a fumble recovery. So they've made some plays so far early on. So his defense, they play really well as a unit together, and they've made some plays. They got some havoc-minded guys, including, like I said, Billy Pullen and Wydett Williams Jr., who I think are probably the 2 best players on the defense. So maybe Ernest Hill's, defense will make some plays against Texas. That remains to be seen. And he says they're not scared of Arch Manning because some of them beat him in high school, even though they didn't. They didn't beat him in high school. Not those guys anyway. Not based on the research from Danny Davis. Let's jump to the offensive side for Lou Monroe. They want to run the football. It's just that simple. General Booty. And I love the name. I looked this up because I was like, I wasn't sure about it. And I had someone tell me that, oh man, General Booty, you got to look up his entire name, like the entire name. It's funnier than just General Booty. And they're right. His entire name is General Maximus Axel Booty. And that's the extra little flavor there. General Maximus Axel Booty. His parents have a really good sense of humor. I gotta meet the Booties, because I guess when your last name is Booty, you have to have a sense of humor. But I mean, it's Booty. Yeah, I mean, your last name is Booty. You gotta throw some flavor on them names for the kiddo. So sorry, kiddo. I know you got to deal with it, but you need to have also a sense of humor about your name, because your last name gonna be Booty, and this is just part of who we are. So I appreciate the Booty. That's John David Booty. There's Josh Booty. John David. Let's see. John David. It was just simple, just a John David Booty, and Josh Gibson Booty. So I think they're actually named after people too, if I'm not mistaken, like the Booties. The Josh Gibson Booty. I wonder. I bet they're named like after folks. Anyway, but his name Booty is probably the most elaborate. He is the nephew of John David Booty. And and Josh Booty. He's the nephew of both of them. So he's kind of like he's basically kind of like Arch. He's the nephew of the famous quarterback
That's
family.
where the comparisons end.
Yes, that's fair. He was once committed to Oklahoma before transferring to Lou Monroe, and now General Maximus Axel Booty. I mean, he's actually been pretty efficient. He's completing 63% of his passes. He's got 0 interceptions. He's got a touchdown. Averaging 6.4 yards per attempt. They don't want to throw the football downfield. That's not what they want to do. They want to run the football. They have multiple players, 3 of them actually, that are averaging right at 5 yards per carry or more. And that's where their bread is buttered. They got Ahmad Hardy. He's averaging 4.9 yards per carry. He leads the team currently in carries and rushes. He's got 33 of them, so he is their main back, but they got a true committee, and they play multiple back sets as well. James Jones is their second leading rusher. He's got 110 yards on the season. Ahmad Hardy's got 161, and then there's Taven Curry. Taven Curry, he's the third leading rusher for them. He transferred, I believe, from UAB. And he's their third leading rusher, and he's averaging over 5 yards per carry, 5.2 yards per carry. And they've used him more in the passing game. He's got 2 receptions on the season for 17 yards. None of the other running backs have any receptions. As a matter of fact, their leading receiver has 7 receptions, but their leading receiver in yards has 89 yards. That would be Javon Campbell. He is their leading receiver. He's got some size on him. He's about 6'3", probably about 215, somewhere around there. He's got some size. But like I told you guys, they don't want to throw the football. If they're throwing the football, then they're kind of abandoning their identity. They want to run the rock. And they don't do it with the quarterback run game. They do it with multiple back sets. And honestly, Texas will probably use a lot of their game plan versus Michigan. And Javon Campbell, like I said, he's the deeper threat. He's averaging over 17 yards per catch. He's the guy that they want to get to on. If they go play action pass and they want to get a chunk yards play downfield, he's the guy they're probably going to. The other receiver, Devon Walls, he's more of their screen guy, quick game guy. Although he's got 7 receptions, 6 yards per catch. He's not going very far. The guy they want to get downfield is Javon Campbell. He's the vertical threat for him. Other than those guys, they don't really have. I mean, like I said, they've only thrown the football 31 times. So they're 2-0, two games. They've thrown the football 31 times, guys. So they don't want to throw it. Texas' goal should be to make them throw it 20 times. They should have to throw it against Texas. They should have to throw it 20 to 25 times against Texas. Like what in Michigan. I got to go back and look at the Michigan game. See how many times Michigan threw the ball. Michigan didn't want to throw it as much as they did against Texas. They didn't want to have to do that. They had to abandon their identity because Texas snatched their soul. All right. And that's what this defense can do to you because they're so malleable and so versatile. So you're going to see what you saw versus Michigan. You're going to see the bare front. Bear front is essentially old relic of the 4-6 defense with Buddy Ryan. You put the basically the nose tackle head up over the center in a zero technique. You got both guards covered up by the 2 D tackles. So you basically are saying we're not going to allow you to run in any of these gaps inside. You got to go to the outside. You got to go to the C and the D gaps because you're not going to get the A and the B gaps. And then from then on, you just kind of fill in from there. And at least you know where the ball is going to be spilled. And so Texas used some of that. They used the penny front, which is essentially 5 guys up front, 3 down linemen, but 2 overhang outside linebackers and a single off-ball inside linebacker. They call it the penny front. Texas used that against Michigan. I think you'll see that. Again, you'll see this Texas in base. I mean, they were just running 3-4 or 4-3, taking the nickel out because against a team that's going to throw the or wants to throw the ball 15 times a game, they're not spreading you out and they're not trying to expose and exploit matchups on the outside. They just want to get 4 yards in a cloud of dust still. And if ULM can do that, then they'll consider it a win. So just like the Michigan game, first down's important. If Texas holds them to 2 yards or less on first down, pretty much game over for Lou Monroe because second and long, unless they can, and they might be able to run the ball on second down and get, chunk yards. But either way, it'll lead to third and medium or third and long. And that's what you want to put them in. You put them in third and long, Texas wins. I went and did the research about Texas third and longs. As a matter of fact, I'll share that next time we go behind the bunch. I may do it in Rod's rant, actually. I did some research on Texas defending third and longs and found a really interesting MO. Really interesting, trend with Texas on third and long throughout the first 3 games. I'll share that with you later on in the show. All right, let's get to the break. We'll get to the topic for the big fat poll of the day and the musically themed day of the week. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back here on the Rodcast on a Thursday morning, and that means it's a new theme Thursday, and today's theme is fall. Today's theme is fall. I'm hoping to try and sum it up a little bit of cooler weather. Fall begins this weekend.
Please.
And I don't know, it's one of the days, but it's by the calendar begins this weekend. So we are getting to it. So all the songs today have the word fall in them. We try and
summon it, right? Yeah.
Summon a little bit of cooler weather. We got fake fall already. We got our first fake fall. There may be another one, and then a summer past this time and all of that. But we got a fake fall earlier, and it felt pretty nice.
Oh, I felt great.
I remember coming in and we were talking about how it was chilly this morning. It was great, and then
such a tease.
Just hot again. Just hot.
Muggy.
Just do anything. Just do anything outside, and immediately sweating.
Oh, just walking out there, start sweating. No, I'm with you. I can't wait for it. Please, I just want it to cool off just a little bit, man.
I want it to cool off. I love to be able to walk my dog. At a decent, like in the afternoon. Like I get off in the morning and I get some stuff done, and then you're like, well, it's too hot outside to walk my dog now. Yeah, I don't want to burn his feet. So I can't walk him right now. And so you're like, could we get it to where it's cool enough that I can just walk him whenever I want? He'll be a happier dog. I'll be a happier person. So hopefully that'll happen.
Come on, fall.
Come on, fall. We're trying to summon you. Let's get to the Big Fat Poll today. Text line's open 512-447-3776. And we'll get this posted up on X at the Horn ATX.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
Big Fat Poll of the day today. Which one-loss team in college football has the best chance to make the playoffs?
Oh, I like this.
I will give you I have 4 teams listed that are in the top 25 with one loss. There's 5 teams in the top 25, but we're not putting the Aggies in this conversation. So
wow.
We're not
disrespect.
We're not putting them in the conversation.
No, we're a Longhorn family here.
We're not putting them in this conversation. But in their 25, they're down there. But so we'll list the 4 other teams that are in the top 25. I can only put 4 in there, and they're the lowest one, so they get knocked out.
And they're gonna have another loss. We know that.
Yeah,
exactly. At least one more. At least one more. Yeah.
So let's put in which one-loss team. The 4 teams that have one loss that are currently in the top 25. You have LSU. Okay. They lost to USC 27-20. They still play a bunch of ranked teams. The 2 best teams right now left on the roster are Ole Miss and Bama. But they play a bunch of ranked teams because it's the SEC, and there's just a bunch of ranked teams in the SEC. Mm-hmm. So that is where LSU has Notre Dame. Notre Dame right now, they lost 16-14 to Northern Illinois. Definitely the worst loss of the one-loss teams. Yeah, their only games left, though, that are big games are Louisville and USC. So not a super tough schedule going forward. You have Michigan, whose only loss is to Texas, 31-12. Mm-hmm. But they still have a few tough games on their schedule. They play USC this week. And then, of course, they have to play Ohio State in that rivalry game, and they have a game against Oregon. So they do have some tough games left on their schedule. And then Clemson. Clemson lost to Georgia 34-3. And while they're probably the worst team out of the 4, they play Louisville. That's their best opponent left. That's their only ranked opponent left on the roster right now, on the schedule right now.
Yeah. Man, Dabo is just so stubbornly behind the times. It feels like this is just the beginning of the slide.
It does, but they're still in the ACC, and they don't play Miami.
Yeah, and Dabo can coach. We know that. I just worry he doesn't have the talent that he used to have. That he used to coach up, especially on the perimeter and with the skill positions. But okay, so we got LSU, Michigan, and Clemson. Who's the other one?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. That's right, Notre Dame. Ooh, that's a good point about the. I don't like Clemson, but the schedule is definitely the most favorable.
Yeah, and I mean, you win the ACC, you're definitely in.
Yeah, no question.
So can they win the ACC, or is Miami too much better than them? And Miami will win the SEC or the ACC, and so they have to get in as an at-large, and that becomes a little bit more difficult but you're still probably a one-loss team.
Yeah, Notre Dame's schedule's brutal.
Yeah, Notre Dame still. I mean,
it's Notre Dame. Yeah,
and LSU's schedule's SEC, so it's tougher.
Yeah, yep. I mean, Michigan's. That's no cakewalk. They still got to play. What? Don't they got to play Penn State and Ohio State?
Ohio State, Oregon, and USC are all still on that roster on that schedule because they play USC this week.
Okay. Well, yeah, they got That's not easy. Yeah, the Clemson schedule is intriguing to me because, but that Clemson, like I said, their skill positions, they're still pretty good in the interior. Actually, their skill positions right now, they leave a lot to be desired. I just don't know if they have the guys that can separate on the outside, the guys that can the athletes that can man up on the outside like they used to. So that's a tough one. I'm with you. I got to go do some more. I got to ponder this a little bit more.
Ponder this one a little bit
Know,
more.
I don't feel. Nothing's like jumping out to me. Usually,
No, I mean
jumps out
your
to me.
easy answer is Clemson because the ACC and because the
And the
easiest schedule by far. You think Notre Dame can probably beat Louisville and USC, but the problem is they also lost to Northern Illinois, and they have to be an at-large bid because they're not in the conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, Clemson. That I love that schedule, but I just don't love the program right now. But I do. I think Dabo can turn it around. I'm not questioning that. Yeah, I got to ponder it a little bit more. Clemson's right now the one I'm leading.
Yeah,
but
and we'll know more about Michigan. Michigan can go in and beat USC. That would be really good for Texas.
They got a new starting quarterback. Alex Orji's going to start now for them.
I mean, Davis Warren threw 3 picks, I think, last week. So I think
they may spark something.
Well, I think they realize neither one can throw, so we might as well put the guy who can run.
I think we all thought they would do that versus Texas. I can't believe they didn't.
Yeah,
I can't believe they didn't go that route versus Texas a little bit. I think they had him in a couple of plays, but it was always obvious what he was doing.
At least Sharon Moore finally got his contract. I've read that he finally got his contract signed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. I hope he has a vision for this Michigan team, because right now, him trying to execute hardball's vision is not working.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I say hardball ball. I didn't mean to put a plural. I didn't mean to say plural. Hardball ball. Trying to execute hardball ball.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, I think Sharon Moore's main idea now is, well, when I recruit guys, you can start year one, or we're going to hit the transfer portal and bring somebody in. And he's got to go out and get that money, pay transfer portal quarterback, or get a freshman in next year.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. And then you got, like I said, that's why Dabo, he's anti-transfer portal. He's not necessarily a huge advocate of NIL. He kind of mocks those things. I don't know. That worries me for Clemson and the future of Clemson. The way
it does. It worries me too.
I just don't know if the slide is already happening or if it's, we're just watching the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And do they still have enough to like you said, win out in the ACC based on the schedule? We'll see. We'll see about that. Like I said, I'm still not ready to commit. We'll talk about that on the other side. We'll get into it a little bit more. We also got NFL news, notes, and nuggets coming up on the other side. We'll get into the Cowboys and their matchup coming up this weekend versus the Ravens. We'll hear from Mike Zimmer. This may frustrate some of you Cowboys fans to hear what Mike Zimmer said about the Saints game and their defensive performance. We'll hear from Michael Parsons as well, talking about their rush defense versus the Saints. And then we'll jump into the Texans matchup versus the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of compelling storylines there. We'll do it on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday. That's when my man Patrick, our co-host, and the Idealionaire comes up with all the musically themed days of the week. That's when he comes up with a very creative theme for Thursday. And the creative theme for today is that he's inspired by is fall. He's trying to summon fall. It's supposed to already be here. We got faked out by fall, a little fake fall that hit us earlier, a little teaser hit us a couple of weeks ago. Now it's back to being hot and humid. So he wants some football weather. So all of the songs are to help bring fall because all of them mentioned or in some way are about fall. Or
They'll have the word fall in the title.
They all have fall in the title. All right, there you go. All right, so my man Patrick doing a great job with the new theme Thursday. We appreciate that. Also,
you find out that most of the songs about fall, very melancholy.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah,
so it's
get hype about the
it's
fall.
hard to kind of put it together a playlist when every song you get is just the leaves are turning brown. And you're like, all right, I don't want to play this. This is
so you
really
got to talk about you just got to have it talking about fall.
Just got to fall in the title and I can find some decent songs.
Right. Yeah, so not about the fall, but they'll have fall in the title. All right, but the new theme is about fall, hopefully coming pretty soon. So we'll get back to some speaking of fall, we'll get back to some football conversation. We'll talk NFL here coming up. Texans and Cowboys. We'll hear from Mike Zimmer as well. Also, Patrick comes up with the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. Got to get that posted for you at the Horn ATX on X. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll today. Which one-loss team in college football has the best chance to make the playoffs? The four options we gave you on X are LSU, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Clemson, as they are in the top 25 with one loss. A&M is in the top 25 with one loss. We understand there will be another loss at the end of the season, so I'm already putting them at 2 losses. I'm already putting Texas down for the win in that one. So I say Jello Cat asked why not A&M, because I'm giving them another loss already. Because I'm going to say Texas is going to beat them at the end of the season. So that makes them a 2-loss team. It gives them a late loss. I don't think they make the playoffs. I don't think they make it there as a 1-loss team anyway. But they may. They have a bigger quarterback controversy than Texas does because there actually is controversy.
Mike Elko said that he's not going to. Basically, it'll be week to week for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
he said that.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. An actual quarterback controversy is happening in College Station.
Is that because of the? I don't know if that's because I got it from Texas. It says on the Aggie Football Hour, Mike Elko said the quarterback position will likely be a game time decision for the rest of the season.
I think that's gamesmanship. It's injury and gamesmanship. I think we don't want to tell you what you have to prepare for a mobile quarterback and a not mobile quarterback for every single game for the rest of the season because we may switch them out for you.
Well, Stark hasn't even confirmed that Arch is going to start. Yeah, we all know Arch is
I get it. It's all gamesmanship.
Yeah. Do what you do. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. No, like I said, I will get into that. We'll talk. Obviously, we talked a lot about Texas, but we'll get back to it. But yes, the topic for Big Fat Poll today. Patrick's already got it posted up. I haven't made my decision yet. But which one-loss team in college football has the best chance to make the playoffs? LSU, Michigan, Clemson, or Notre Dame? Sorry, Aggies. That's just the way it is. All right, we'll get to some more college football talk, but NFL discussion on the other side. We'll hear from Mike Zimmer. I am a little disappointed when I heard Mike Zimmer say this, actually, in immediate availability early this week. So we have that audio, and we'll hear from Michael Parsons on his podcast talking about what was lacking for the Cowboys in their with their rush defense in their effort versus the New Orleans Saints. So we'll talk about that too. But before we do, let's hit the Horn headlines. Let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros lost their rubber match game to with the Padres 4-0 yesterday, while Framber Valdez was able to go 7 innings, striking out 6 and only allowing 1 run. Dylan Cease pitched 8 and a third innings for San Diego, only allowing 2 hits. The Astros now move on to a 4-game series with the Angels starting tonight in Houston, with Yusei Kikuchi getting the start for the Astros. The Rangers won the second game in their series with the Blue Jays last night, this time with superb pitching, shutting them out 2-0. Cody Bradford pitched 7 innings with 6 strikeouts, and Adolis Garcia hit a 2-run homer in the 6th to put up the only runs of the game. The Rangers will look to sweep Toronto today, with Kumar Rocker getting his second major league start. In college football, major Applewhite South Alabama Jaguars will try to follow up an 87-10 win last week as they take on Appalachian State tonight. And in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets take on the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Patrick, could you please get that Zimmer sound ready and the Micah Parsons as well? Because I want to hit those here when we talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Here's a nugget from what I found researching the Dallas Cowboys and their rush defense so far. And it was one that it was troubling. Well, two of them. I got two nuggets to share with you. The Cowboys defense. We start talking about stuff rate. Stuff rate is when runs that are stopped at the line of scrimmage for no gain or for a negative, for a loss, right, of some kind. So that's a stuff rate, either no gain or a loss. Whether you're talking about offense or defense. For defense, it's a good thing if you have a large percentage of rush attempts against you that are for no gain or a tackle for a loss. So the Cowboys defense has contacted opposing rushers. So make contact with opposing rushers behind the line of scrimmage on 31% of carries this season. That's the fourth lowest rate. They have also allowed the fourth most yards after contact per carry. 3.9. 3.9 yards after contact per carry. They are not getting a push up front. So it's not enough for the D tackles, even if they are, which they're not. They're getting, they're getting pushed back. But they need somebody to be able to penetrate and at least disrupt the play in the backfield. The Cowboys are getting none of that at all. Like I said, and the 3.9 yards after contact per carry. I mean, that's I would love to go see what the yards before contact are, but I know they're going to be at least relatively high because they haven't made contact with opposing rushers behind the line of scrimmage at a really high rate, the fourth lowest rate in the NFL. That's one stat that I saw that gave me pause. And I'm not even a Cowboys fan. I'm a quasi one. And then Pro Football Focus, here are their run defense grades for the D tackles. When I looked at that, I was like, well, if they're not getting a push, your push usually comes from the D tackles. They're the ones who give you your initial push in the run game. And in the pass game as pass rushers. The grades for defensive tackles from Sunday against the New Orleans Saints, Mozzie Smith, 30. Oza Digizua, this is their run defense grade, rush defense grade. Mozzie Smith versus the Saints, 30. Oza Digizua, remember I told you he's a really good young pass rusher D tackle, but not a run stopper. 29. Linval Joseph, 29. Jordan Phillips, 26. Pro Football Focus scores are 100. They range from 0 to 100. So yeah, that's poor to say the least. So the D tackles, I'm not sure if it's a technique issue. I saw them getting reached a ton, essentially allowing guards to basically allowing them to cross face with them, and then them getting no penetration, not allowed to shoot the gap and penetrate. So they got to figure out something at D tackle because it's not working. And that's where, at the point of attack, where their rush defense initially disintegrates. Okay, so let's hear from Mike Zimmer, because he was speaking to the media about the game versus the Saints, talking about personnel groupings. But then he admitted something in this statement that I thought was a little troubling. Here is Mike Zimmer, the DC for the Cowboys.
Is that, we've got some linebackers that we like. The week before, we didn't anticipate being in so much subgroup packages. This week, we didn't anticipate being in quite so many base down packages. So, each week is going to be different for each guy. And, talking about Demo, he's coming off an ACL, missed all of spring, didn't really get out there until we got to OTA. So he's working his way back in, and that will continue to go go forward as we go. But he's going to get plenty of reps.
All right. So he said he didn't anticipate being in base so much, which means I told they were playing power football, right? They were running downhill on the Cowboys under center from power sets. And against the Cowboys, I believe the number is because they were in the Saints aligned in 2 back formations in week 1, right? They aligned in 2 back formations, 37% of the plays in week 1. And against the Cowboys, that number rose to 53%. So I don't know how he wasn't ready for. I mean, that's not even including 12 personnel, and 12 personnel. They will line up in 12 personnel. Based on this information I have here, this is from based on this tweet from Mauricio Rodriguez, they were in 12 personnel 27% of the time in week 1. So I don't know why Mike Zimmer wasn't prepared for that. Them being in a lot of base sets or going up against a lot of power sets. They should have been prepared for that, and they weren't. And DeMarvin Overshown, who was talking about there later, he only played, I believe it was 18 snaps versus the Saints. He played 44 in week 1 versus the Cleveland Browns. He played 44 snaps there. And so maybe he should get some rotation in base versus Baltimore. You won't have to worry about that. He's definitely going to play versus Baltimore, and you'll play a lot of sub packages. I wonder if Baltimore will try to at one point use some power run elements against the Cowboys. As we've established, what works against the Cowboys, unfortunately, is the power running game. And that Mick Shanahan offenses have exposed the Cowboys rush defense, as we've talked about. Can't beat the 49ers in the playoffs, and then the Green Bay Packers, which is also from that Mick Shanahan coaching tree. But even the power run game element, the Bills last season when they ran downhill on the Dallas Cowboys, and they used 22 personnel and a lot of 12 personnel, and the same thing with the Miami Dolphins when they lined up and just ran downhill on the Cowboys. The Arizona Cardinals did it last year too. Now, different system, different defensive coordinator, but this year, basically the Saints, that's some of their natural DNA anyway, but that's from the Mick Shanahan coaching tree. It's Clint Kubiak, so he's from the original Shanahan coaching tree, but he's from Kyle Shanahan's staff. And then you also have the power running element. In addition to the Mick Shanahan run game, you're the power running element. They were under center because they were under center. I can't reiterate that enough. Nobody these days is under center that much. And they decided to against the Dallas Cowboys. They decided, we're going to be under center against the Cowboys. They aligned under center more than any offense in week 1. It was at 61%. And against the Cowboys, they were under center 42 of the 56 plays. Guys, that was so the running backs can get a head start in hitting the gap. So they can get a downhill, momentum and running at the Cowboys. In addition to using the Mick Shanahan zone blocking system, in addition to using all the cheat codes of play action, pass, and pre-snap motion and compressed and condensed sets. And all those things seem to give the Dallas Cowboys issues in the run game specifically. So they gotta, and you gotta rebuild it this year. This season, obviously, you just got to fix the problem and go with the best course of action to remedy the issue right now, whatever it may be. But going forward, in terms of long-term strategy, the Cowboys might have to look at rebuilding their defensive tackle room, and they've tried to kind of piecemeal it. And I think it's coming back to bite them. Think about because now they did draft Monty Smith. It didn't work out, but I'll give them credit for drafting Monty Smith. But think about what they've done in that D tackle room in the last 4 or 5 years. Right, 2020 they signed Gerald McCoy. Remember that one? Free agency. Signed Dontari Poe. Everybody thought, oh man, that might work out. Those guys at the end of their careers, it might work out. It didn't. They drafted Neville Gallimore. Not sure. They re-signed Antoine Woods. That was their plan at D tackle in 2020. In 2021, they signed Carlos Watkins as a free agent, signed Brent Urban as a free agent. They drafted Oza Odigizua, who I think is a good player, but it's limited in what he can do against the run game because he's an undersized D tackle. Chauncey Golston, they also drafted, and they drafted Quentin Bohanna. I think this was their attempt to rebuild the D tackle room in 2021. They drafted 3 guys on that D line. They signed Justin Hamilton from the practice squad, and that was their plan. In 2022, they re-signed Carlos Watkins. They drafted John Ridgway. They traded for Jonathan Hankins. That was a good move by them because he was a run stuffer. And they waived Tristan Hill. They gave up on that experiment. In 2023, they re-signed Jonathan Hankins, which was a good move. Re-signed Tack McKinley. He was even listed as a D tackle at the time. They drafted Mozzie Smith. They drafted Fihoko, signed Tyrus Wheat to the practice squad, and signed Carl Davis to the practice squad. So they tried again. All right, you know what? Let's try to revamp and let's try to reinvent this D tackle room. And then in 2024, re-signed Carl Davis, drafted Justin Rogers, signed Carl Lawson, signed Phil Hoskins, traded for Jordan Phillips, signed Linval Joseph, and once again, I think these are underwhelming moves. So I think I'll give them credit that in 2021. No, sorry, I'll give them credit that in 2021 they did try to revamp the room, and then in 2023 they drafted Mozzie Smith really high. Those efforts have failed. And I think right now you have an issue. You're bereft of talent at D tackle. You got a major issue there, Cowboys. And I think it's affecting your rush defense. I think it affected Dan Quinn's ability to stop the run. And I think it's affecting Mike Zimmer's ability to stop the run as a DC. So Cowboys got to figure it out. And they better figure it out quickly because, like I said, the Baltimore Ravens and what they present, they have it in their DNA, even though right now they're a spread passing offense. They have it in their DNA to run power against anybody. They got Derrick Henry, who is a power back from a power system with the Tennessee Titans and probably the most prolific running back in the last 5-6 years in the NFL. And they got arguably the greatest dual threat quarterback in NFL history who can also run the rock. So you got the +1 to worry about in the running game. If you got issues stopping the run, Baltimore has the pieces to exploit it. I don't know if they will, but they got the pieces to exploit it. They probably won't get him under center. They probably won't put Lamar Jackson on center. They'll probably put him in the pistol, but still he could execute some of the same concepts that have given the Cowboys issues, or at least gave them issues versus the Saints. All right, so Cowboys, that's something to watch. Oh, can we play the Micah Parsons audio here? Parsons was on his podcast after the Saints game, and of course, he had to address the Cowboys' poor rush defense against the Saints. And here is what Micah Parsons said, in his opinion, what the issue was for the Cowboys.
My biggest takeaways from that game, one, the effort was not there by all 11. It doesn't matter who plays well, who didn't play well. The effort by all 11 wasn't there. The basic fundamentals of the game of football was not there. And you know, at the end of the day, you have a standard of who you are during training camp and throughout this process to get you ready for the season. We didn't uphold that standard. That wasn't the Dallas Cowboys that I saw or I knew that showed up last week. It was not the same team this week. Was it the preparation? What was it? I don't know, but I'm determined to get this thing right. As you said, I'm trying to step up this year. I'm trying to be that guy for our team, and we have to be a whole lot better. And it's going to start. It started today. I feel like we made a big jump. Obviously, breaking down the film it was hard to watch. You know, at the end of the day, you know, coming on to the show, coming out live, you know, it's hard to talk about the losses. It's hard to take it. But anyway, we got to take this loss and learn from it, right? It's early in the season. It's kind of reminding us of the Broncos a couple of years ago, Arizona last year. But the championship's not won right now. We got a whole lot of time to get this together. We got a whole lot of time to keep getting better. And this is going to be a big week to kind of get better. We're going to get more into Baltimore down the line. But, you know, but for right now, let's just focus on Cowboys. You know, the fans have a lot of questions. What was the difference between this week and last week? Honestly, to my standard and level, I wouldn't say there's a big drop-off. But, you know, I don't know if it was just an earlier game or, you know, but we weren't flying to the ball the same way. We weren't striking blocks the same way. We weren't playing complementary football. And I keep telling you guys, complementary football is so big in the NFL. Special teams has to be clicking. Offense has to be clicking. Defense has to be clicking. And we just weren't clicking defensively. I thought Dak played a really good game. And we did not help our quarterback.
Well, I'm glad it seems like, he took ownership of the miscues and the lapses on defense. They better figure it out. They better figure it out quickly because we know Lamar Jackson's record versus the NFC, 20-1. He doesn't lose when he plays NFC opponents. And unfortunately, Cowboys, you're in the NFC. And they're 0-2. They're desperate because you go 0-3 in the NFL, your playoff hopes are pretty much done. You might as well start making plans for the postseason. I mean, not for the postseason, but vacation plans so you can watch the postseason from whatever hotel you're going to be at on vacation, because 0-3 is almost an impossibility to make the NFL playoffs. So they're going to be as desperate as you've seen, and that's a good test for the Cowboys. Desperate team that can exploit your weaknesses with a quarterback that's had tremendous amounts of success versus the NFC in that conference, because you're just not used to seeing that apex predator in that ecosystem. Really interesting matchup for the Cowboys. We'll see what this Cowboys team is made of. We really will. And that defense ain't no slouch. I mean, they got a lot of playmakers, so it'll be a real test for the Cowboys offense too. But the most compelling conversation is about that Cowboys defense. Is the blueprint out on how to beat the Cowboys? Or are we going to see the Baltimore Ravens break identity and go, man, let's just go downhill running. Let's go downhill and just run on these dudes like old school first MVP Lamar Jackson. Because right now they're Todd Monken. He's more of an air raid, spread-ish, pace and space offense than that old Greg Roman offense. But if they go back to some of those tendencies because they want to replicate what the Saints did against the Cowboys and what the 49ers have done versus the Cowboys and what Green Bay did versus the Cowboys and what the Buffalo Bills last year did versus the Cowboys, then ruh-roh.
I mean, what? They have two players on that team that have won an MVP running the ball downhill? Him and Derrick Henry? Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, both running the ball, got him an MVP.
Derrick Henry doesn't have an MVP.
Did he not get an MVP? Did he? Just rushing leader. Sorry, rushing.
He just run. Yeah, he's been a rushing leader. Yeah, rushing leader. But Lamar's got two of them. So he's got two. He's got one as basically two different quarterbacks. So that's the beautiful thing about Lamar Jackson's MVPs. That first MVP, he was a different quarterback. He literally was just a rushing weapon from the pocket, and they ran heavy sets and 22 personnel and 12 personnel. And then he won it last year as a quarterback in a spread offense, spread pace and space. It's amazing. So Cowboys, that's what you got to deal with. We'll see.
Offensive player of the year. Offensive player of the year.
Offensive player of the year. Yeah. No, he's his most prolific running back in the NFL in the last 6 years, guys. Yeah. So the Cowboys got to be ready for it. I know he's not in his prime anymore, but man, he might have one in him for the Cowboys. He's licking his chops looking at that defense. All right, we come back. We'll get into the Texans a little bit. Because their matchup also very compelling. Them going against the Minnesota Vikings. I got some stats to share with. I got good and bad news if you're a Texans fan about this matchup. Good and bad news. We'll share that with you on the other side in Rod's Rant of the Day, right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into the Texans matchup. I want to get into this Texans matchup with the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's, like I said, really compelling for a lot of different reasons. And to me, I think the number one factor is going to be how the Texans perform on third down. Really, what the status of their third downs is, right? Are they in third and manageable, or are they in third and long? Because that's where really Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings defense, that's where they had the upper hand on Kyle Shanahan in the 49ers last week. And remember, we talked about this yesterday. It was a brilliant masterclass in situational football on critical downs with Brian Flores trying to match wits with Kyle Shanahan. Usually Shano wins the majority of those chess matches with other coaches, but there are some people that believe that Brian Flores got the best of Shano in that game last week because of what he did with him, did against him, I should say, on third downs. 49ers were 2 of 10 on third downs last week versus Minnesota, 1 of 3 on fourth downs. So essentially holding them to 3 of 13 on money downs. That was the story of the game. They also had 2 takeaways. They ended up getting to Brock Purdy 4 times, I believe. They ended up having 4 sacks, if I'm not mistaken, in that game. So they made a lot of splash plays, but it was really about the looks and the disguise that they were able to throw out there, and the versatility, the variety, and the range and spectrum of defensive looks that they were able to throw at Brock Purdy and at Shano on those third downs. And it was because they had them in, third and medium, and there was actually some third and shorts where they actually won too. But I worry with the Texans, just kind of translating that, because that was against a Shanahan offense, the Shanahan offense, and now you're going to be against an offense in Bobby Slowick's where he's trying to replicate a lot of the same concepts and achieve a lot of the same things by the same means. All right. And with that Shanahan offense, right? And Bobby Slowick is now doing his own kind of spin on it, his own cover version of it, but it still has the same conceptual signatures, to still the basic foundation and fundamentals of it. And Brian Flores knows how to coach against it, or at least he showed last week on third downs. You're going to have to win against me. You may be able to move the football because they had they had over 300 yards passing, I believe, and over 100 yard rushing as a team. I think they had a 100-yard rusher in Jordan Mason, so they still were able to move the football. But when it came time to convert on critical money downs, the 49ers just couldn't win that chess match. And I worry about that with the Texans, and here's why: because against the Chicago Bears, and I think my man Patrick also echoed the same sentiment. There are times with the Texans where they almost take first down for granted. I feel like because they, first of all, they're way too conservative on first down. That's number one. But they really are so inefficient and inconsistent on first down that oftentimes it'll lead them to third and long. Last year they took it for granted because CJ Stroud led the NFL actually in completions that converted third and 10 plus yards to gain. He was unbelievable. You can't count on that, and you shouldn't count on that, right? You don't put your quarterback in favorable positions. And the Texans still aren't doing that enough. And I worry they could get in third and long too often versus Minnesota. And that's where Brian Flores and his defensive philosophy, that's where it shines, especially against a Mick Shanahan offense. Against the Bears, the Texans had 16 rushes for 41 yards, 2.6 yards per carry on first down against the Bears. Now, the Bears' rush defense is pretty damn good. But when they were passing on first down, they were 5-11, so completion percentage is not great for 51 yards. So at least, in terms of your yards per completion, you're getting yardage, but they're just not necessarily great on first down. They got to be more efficient on first down. They got to be better on first down so they can get third and manageable and third and short. The reason, Patrick, they're in third and long too often, and by the way, they're not great on third down. They're about 37, 38% on third down in 2023, and this year they're 39%. So they're average. They're right in average on third down, I believe, overall. And they're almost mismanaged and so inefficient and inconsistent on first down that I think in this game I'm worried about it being a third and long and third and medium too often, and then that's when the odds flip in favor of Minnesota. So first down is really going to be a big down to watch because they got away with it versus Chicago and get away with it versus Chicago. Get away with that versus Indianapolis because those teams have some deficiencies that are glaring, and you are just a better overall well-rounded team. But if you're talking about being Kansas City being the standard, and that's where you're trying to get to beat that team, you got to get better on first down. Got to. And I think that's to me is a concern. If you go look at also their first down, 2.6 yards per carry on first down for Chicago, 0.6 yards per rush after contact on first down. So like it's just nothing. All right. So that to me is what I'm watching versus Minnesota. They're not getting much yards on first down. It's gonna be a long day because they're gonna be in third and long way too often, and that's where Minnesota's disguise within a disguise. Like this is a defense that can make you see ghosts. They literally use what I call ghost fronts, radar fronts, where they have multiple guys that are like 6 guys standing up or 4 guys standing up, 2 guys in 3-point stances, and it's a simulated pressure, but you don't know which guys are coming. You don't know which guys are dropping back in coverage. And they also manipulate the pre-snap disguise with the secondary too. So the wide receivers are having to also diagnose what coverage it is, while also the quarterback and the O-line, they are reacting to what the front is looking like because it's a lot of mystery, right? It's his defense basically is described as a mystery wrapped in a riddle. He wants you chasing ghosts, and he wants you trying to block ghosts with his simulated pressures. He has DBs playing man technique with zone eyes, meaning the quarterback sees them in their alignment. He thinks man, but they're watching the quarterback and not necessarily because the ball's going to come out quick based on what kind of pressure it is, and they know that, and so they're watching the quarterback rather than eyes on the man. They're doing some wild stuff with Minnesota. Especially just causing chaos and confusion. Disguise the disguise. That's how I would describe it. They disguise the disguise. So you would think that's why it's a mystery wrapped in a riddle. They have disguises and Dan Quinn does this at multiple levels for everybody to diagnose. Wide receivers got a process, quarterbacks got a process, O-line does as well. And if any of those elements are now on the same page, chaos. We win because offense is built about precision, timing, right? Execution, the way the footwork's tied to the hand placement, all this kind of stuff. But if I can get the center not on the same page, and the O-line not on the same page with the quarterback, or the quarterback not on the same page as the wide receivers, then that's our sack. That's our splash play. And evidence of that with this Vikings defense is what they do when they blitz. How about this number? Got this number doing research and got it from NFL Live. Vikings defense with the blitz this season, 33 dropbacks, the most. So they blitzed on the most dropbacks this season. They got the most sacks when blitzing with 5. They got the most pressures when blitzing, and they got the most quarterback contacts when blitzing. We talked about how C.J. Stroud and the Texans have struggled a little bit in pass protection. This is not the team you want to struggle with in pass protection.
No,
because they blitz and they also throw a lot of exotic pressure looks at you.
No, and the Texans are dealing with a few injuries right now too. So that means you just need to be that much more aware of everything you're doing. We know Juice Scruggs is still not practicing, hasn't come back to practice yet. They're starting center. Joe Mixon hasn't practiced. Damian Pierce didn't practice on Wednesday. So, the running game, you're a little bit more concerned about. Tight end Dalton Schultz is dealing with some things and was limited in practice. Brevin Jordan just went on the IR.
They just signed one. Didn't they sign Irv Smith?
Irv Smith.
Yes. I believe is his name.
Irv Smith, who used to play for the Vikings. But
oh yeah, good point.
I think that the reality is you want to be a little bit more gunslinger because you have all the weapons in the passing game. And so they may not value first down as much as they need to, because they feel they can take some shots and they can make it up. but I don't know if this is the right team to try and get into third and longs with and let CJ Stroud get out, because they're going to throw different things at you, and they're going to be able to throw at you, sacking you, and then the next drive you come back out and get freaked out about it, and they drop everybody back into coverage, and it's going to be a long day for CJ Stroud. They have the ability to go out there and find the pieces underneath and go get guys and pick up first downs. You just have to be a little bit more cautious about it. You probably thought going into the season this was not going to be a game you had to worry about as much as you're going to have to worry about it. It's one of the only 2-0 matchups of both teams being 2-0 in the NFL this weekend. It's them, and then the Chargers and Steelers are the other matchup. But
think about that.
These teams haven't lost yet, and there's a reason why. They both have talent on these rosters. They traded pass rushers too, which is an interesting fact.
Yeah,
it was free agency, but it was
But
yeah, Hunter was for the Vikings last year, and Jerry Hughes was playing for Texans last year. So
yeah, I think about that. Good point.
So it'll be an interesting matchup. I think they'll know each other well enough of what they're going to be trying to put at each other. But it's the same part. That Brian Flores offense. I think we heard a thing from Sam Darnold before the season, or a quote from Sam Darnold, where he was like, "I just want to play another team."
It was JJ McCarthy, actually.
Oh, JJ McCarthy.
They asked a rookie that was like, "What are you looking forward to in the preseason?" He was like, "Going against some vanilla looks, some base defenses, man." Because this season in practice, Brian Flores was basically wearing him out with all these crazy looks. And that's a great. I forgot all about that, Pat. You're right. That came to fruition there. Apparently, he was working on some crazy looks. And JJ McCarthy, he started out great. He looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And maybe because he did see what he was seeing in the preseason looked really vanilla compared to what he was seeing in practice. But I will say this because the Vikings like to blitz. Here is Nico Collins is great versus the blitz. Matter of fact, in so far this season, Nico Collins has accounted for 62% of CJ Stroud's passing yards versus the blitz. So when he's getting blitzed, that he's got a hot route, he's usually looking to Nico as his hot. Nico didn't practice today because he's dealing with a couple of injuries, but he's expected to still be okay to play. I haven't heard anything other than that, but he didn't practice yesterday, I believe it was. Just throwing it out there. But Nico Collins is that's the guy CJ Stroud looks to, period. That's their number one guy. But versus the blitz, like I say, 62% of his passing yards have come, or at least versus the blitz, have come via Nico Collins, because that's the guy he's looking for. Speaking of Nico, I saw this too. According to FanDuel now, Nico Collins has the best odds to lead the NFL in receiving. He currently does lead the NFL in receiving with 252 receiving yards, which has, I want to say he's got like almost 50 yards more than the second leading receiver in the NFL. So this may be the year of Nico Collins, man. It might be the year of Nico. That's possible. I want to get into the Texans defense versus the Minnesota offense, because stopping Justin Jefferson is a whole nother conversation, right? Because that's the best receiver in the league. Speaking of the best receivers in the league, Nico Collins is trying to take that crown from Justin Jefferson. So we'll talk about that next time we jump into this matchup, talking about the Texans and the Minnesota Vikings. We'll do that. But coming up next, we have What the Facts, What the Stats. Got a bunch of those to share with you. College football related, Longhorn related stats, and NFL stats. We'll do that on the other side. We'll also dive into a conversation next segment. There's some people that believe the NFL's got to do something about a concept that has become so popular it may be hurting the game. I've talked about it on this show ad nauseum. You guys have heard me mention it a ton. But now there's discussion, and I even saw it on ESPN, that it may be damaging to the game, this concept. No, I'm not talking about the tush push. Something else. We'll get into that too, because they're saying maybe the NFL should ban it or modify it to help promote offense, which is always the case, right? So we'll talk about that too coming up in the 8 o'clock. I just saw that conversation and reminded me of some research that I had done. We'll do that. But first, when we come back, we'll get into What the Facts, What the Stats right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some what the facts, what the stats here on the show. Got a couple of factoids from you. This one comes from Christian Corona. Does a good job as a data scientist, coming up with some nice facts. There are two power conference quarterbacks who have both completed more than 73% of their passes and thrown touchdowns on 10% or more of their passes with a minimum of 15 attempts. So only two power conference quarterbacks who have completed more than 73% of their passes and thrown touchdowns on at least 10% of their passes. Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. Boom. That's a nice stat. There are only two quarterbacks in the country with 5+ passing touchdowns without an interception who have also run for 50+ yards and has 2 touchdowns on the ground. And according to Christian, that is also Arch Manning's in that conversation, but also Jalen Milroe and Arch Manning. And there's only one quarterback in the country who has thrown 15+ passes and is averaging 15+ yards per pass, and that is Arch Manning. Nice work. Well done. I like that. Getting back to some more factoids here and what the facts, what the stats. How about this one? The Rams have missed 33 tackles this season. That is 10 more than any other team. They're the worst tackling team in the league. Not even close. The 49ers have only missed 6 tackles. That's the least in the NFL. 49ers don't miss a lot of tackles. Rams miss way too many tackles. Crazy amount of tackles.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that when you when your offense is beat up like they are.
Yeah.
Something tells me I'm wishing they didn't trade off their linebacker too.
Oh, that's right. They trade literally starting middle linebacker. You're right. I forgot all about that. Yeah, that definitely ain't helping you. The Texans actually are a really good tackling team too. The Texans, if you look at tackling efficiency through week 2, they have just missed 6.4% of their tackles. That's their first in tackling efficiency. So for the Texans, that's pretty damn good. They're a really good tackling team. They're gonna have to be versus Minnesota. I'll give you some stats about that coming up when we get back into the conversation with Minnesota, talking about the matchup between Minnesota and the Texans. All right, another factoid here. What the facts, what the stats, because we got a bunch of them. How about this? Kansas City, their rookie wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, lifetime Longhorn. He ran a go route in week 1 on 42% of his routes versus the Ravens in week 1. None of the wide receivers with a go route, basically a go route rate above 30%, had a target per route run rate above 20% in 2023. So the question is, how often is Xavier Worthy going to be running go routes? I told you guys, basically, it'll be a simple, it'll be a simple solution that they're offering, or maybe more of a pick your poison scenario for the defense. Either their safety's going to defend Xavier Worthy running deep every time, or that safety's going to decide, no, I got to focus on Travis Kelce, or I got to focus on Rashee Rice. You got a number 1 wide receiver, you got a deep threat, and you got the best chemistry, bromance between a quarterback and a receiver, period, a target in the NFL. Which one are you going to defend? Because whatever you pick, it's the wrong choice. If you take that extra safety or extra defender to defend Kelce, you're going to be wrong, because you're going to leave Xavier Worthy running deep. That's the fastest human being in the history of the NFL Combine. Or you're going to leave Rashee Rice, the number 1 wide receiver, one-on-one. You take Rashee Rice, then you leave Kelce one-on-one. He's just going to work the middle of the field. And you leave Xavier Worthy, obviously fastest human that you could defend. You're going to leave him running free on a deep over route of some kind. It's a tough conundrum that they present to a defense with Xavier Worthy always just streaking down the field. Another factoid here. I'll give you one more, and then we'll call it a wrap. All right, how about this one? And I got this is about the Vikings, and the Texans had to play. I'll give you this one. The Vikings last season, they had 30 runs total, where a running back reached at least 15 miles per hour. So 30 total runs where a running back reached at least 15 miles per hour. Through the first 2 games, they already have 13. So much better run game.
Yeah.
Much more explosive run game for them. And that's the Texans got to deal with that. Trust me. And the Texans rush defense is really good. It's been great, actually stellar so far. It's going to be tested versus Minnesota, guys.
Yeah.
It's going to be tested. Minnesota's running the ball really, really well. Yeah. How the hell else do you think Sam Darnold's balling? You think Sam Darnold's balling out there because they throwing it 40 times a game? No, they got a good running game and some balance to the offense.
They picked up Aaron Jones this offseason.
Yep.
Aaron Jones is the guy who killed the Cowboys last season.
The playoffs. About that. Yeah, don't let it be you, Texans. Don't let them rip through both of the Texas teams like that. But yeah, another quick number for you. 8.9% of their runs last season gained at least 10 yards. Right now, it's at 19%. They're damn near 20% of their runs that gain 10 yards. The running game is working for the Minnesota Vikings. We'll discuss that a little bit more when we dive back into that matchup with the Texans and the Vikings. But when we come back, we'll get into this conversation about should the NFL ban this defensive trend, much like the shift in baseball, right? The 3-second rule in basketball. Does the NFL need to take a stance and ban this defensive trend for the overall good of the game? And Mel Kiper actually was the person I said the NFL should ban this defensive trend so that the NFL offenses can thrive and flourish. We'll discuss it on the other side. It's a very, I think, intriguing concept, at least to discuss a thought experiment. I don't think the NFL is going to do it, but it's intriguing to discuss. And NFL at least is having a conversation. We know that, because it is something I've told you guys for the last few years, the NFL is concerned about. So we'll discuss it on the other side. Also, why is ULM talking trash? Why is there bulletin board material coming from ULM side? And it ain't a player, it's a coach. We'll explain it. We'll talk about it on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday, and the theme is a pretty simple one conjured up by my man Patrick, the Idealionaire, my co-host. He comes up with all the musically themed days of the week, and a new theme Thursday is always when he comes up inspired by something that come up with a very creative theme. And today, fall is the theme. He's trying to summon the fall. He's trying to summon fall weather. He wants it to get a little bit cooler. We all want it to be here. Football weather. It should be here by now. So in honor of him trying to summon the fall, which should already be here, he is doing his best by playing songs that have fall in the title or fall in the chorus. And hopefully that'll bring about the fall. So we appreciate my man Patrick there. Also, he comes up with the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and you can go check that out at the Horn ATX on X. Patrick, give the folks a topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll today. Which one-loss team in college football has the best chance to make the playoffs? We put the 4 teams that are the highest ranked teams with one loss on there, which are LSU, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Clemson. We didn't include A&M because A&M is going to have a second loss in last week of the season against Texas. They'll probably lose another one in the middle between, but A&M is the only other top 25 team with one loss. But those are your 4 that have one loss in the top 25 above A&M. And so Notre Dame right now winning 49%. Believe Notre Dame. They only big games left for Notre Dame are Louisville and USC. Their one loss is a pretty bad one against Northern Illinois. But if they can walk through that and say we just weren't ready for 1 week and then we beat Louisville, we beat USC, they don't really have that many big games left on the schedule, so they could easily do that. Number 2 is LSU. That'll be a harder road. They have to play 2 top 5 teams right now in Ole Miss and Bama, along with several other really good SEC teams, so they'd have a tougher road. And then tied at 12% each is Michigan and Clemson. Michigan has that big matchup with USC this week. If they win that, they climb higher back up that, because then they still have Ohio State and Oregon and Penn State and some other big games in the Big Ten, but they don't. But they get through this, they look a little bit better. We'll see what their new quarterback does as well. And then Clemson, their schedule is just easy. It's not even that they're a great team; they just have an easy schedule.
They do have an easy schedule. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It's yeah, I'm not really sure about it. I got the schedules for everybody other than Clemson. I could easily see them having a bad stretch or dropping a game or 2 on that schedule. But man, for Clemson, I just don't like where the program is headed. But that doesn't mean they're still not going to finish the season strong. I don't like where the program is headed, but that's more of a Dabo thing than where than an indictment on where the program is right now. It's more of an indictment on his reluctance to evolve as a coach and accept the modern era of college football and the NIL and the transfer portal. But yeah, I mean, this season in the ACC, Clemson still should have enough to win the ACC. So yeah, I'm not really sure where to go on that one. I haven't made my vote yet, but you should go vote. Go check it out for yourself at the Horn ATX on X. We're going to hear from the defensive coordinator from the ULM Warhawks. That's right. We're going to hear from him because he's feeling, I don't know. I think he must be feeling himself or feeling good about ULM and what they're going to show versus Texas, because there's some bulletin board material, 2 bulletin board worthy quotes, I should say, from Ernest Hill, the defensive coordinator from ULM. So we'll dive into that. We'll also get into this conversation about whether the NFL should ban this defensive trend, something I've brought up on the show several times. I haven't brought up the banning of it, but I know the NFL is concerned about it. But Mel Kiper threw out this idea that they should ban this concept for the overall good of the game. We'll dive into that and discuss it. But before we do any of that, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros lost a rubber match game with the Padres 4-0 yesterday, while Framber Valdez was able to go 7 innings, striking out 6 and only allowing 1 run. Dylan Cease pitched 8 1/3 innings for San Diego, only allowing 2 hits. The Astros now move on to a 4-game series with the Angels starting tonight in Houston, with Yusei Kikuchi getting the start for the Astros. The Rangers won the second game in their series with the Blue Jays last night, this time with superb pitching, shutting them out 2-0. Cody Bradford pitched 7 innings with 6 strikeouts, and Adolis Garcia hit a 2-run homer in the 6th to put the only runs of the game. The Rangers will look to sweep Toronto today with Kumar Rocker getting his second major league start. In college football, Major Applewhite South Alabama Jaguars will try to follow up an 87-10 win last week as they take on Appalachian State tonight. And in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets take on the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, so I don't know how it happened, but I am thankful for it. Looking for storylines to make the ULM game interesting, other than Arch Manning is expected to start that game, which has not yet been confirmed by Steve Sarkisian, but I think we all know pretty much it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to start that game. Other than that, it's been tough to try to find some storylines, very interesting storylines about this matchup, because Texas is favored by 45 points. I believe it was 44.5 last time I looked at it. Can't forget about the hook there, but one thing that happened yesterday, and I don't know what question prompted this, but we do have some audio, but we don't have audio of both of the quotes, so I'll read one of them. So Ernest Hill is the defensive coordinator for ULM. Some people actually mistakenly thought this was the head coach because they posted it on Twitter as, oh, the head coach of ULM. No, he's a defensive coordinator. It's just usually you don't hear a defensive coordinator step out on a limb kind of like this and say these types of things, especially in a matchup where you're so overmatched. We playing the number 1 team in the country. But here's the quote that originally got people riled up and thought and were thinking, hey, this is bulletin board worthy for Texas. So Ernest Hill, the defensive coordinator, said when he was asked about Arch Manning possibly starting the game, said, quote, "We actually have some kids on our team who played against him in New Orleans, and a couple of guys didn't beat him already. So they don't hold too much fear against him. So they're not going to hold any fear against him coming up here." Shout out to Danny Davis of the Austin American Statesman, who does a good job over there at _Danny Davis. He did the investigative research. He's a journalist. So he actually did the research, went down the rabbit hole, and he tweeted out in response to Ernest Hill, for what it's worth, Arch Manning lost to 5 Louisiana high schools and 1 Florida school over 4 years at Isidore Newman. Of the Louisiana and Florida products listed on the ULM roster, none of their listed high schools were one of the schools that Arch lost to. Hashtag investigative reporting. So he actually, this to me makes the statement even pettier, because he didn't even do the research. This is not some factoid that his SID told him or something like that. No. He just kind of randomly threw it out there as maybe a little bit of a discreet shot at Arch Manning in Texas. I have no idea why he would even throw it out there. And then in addition to that quote, here is what he had to say, the audio that we have of Ernest Hill, and talking about how he believes Texas won't be as prepared as they normally are when they play another opponent because of the status of the ULM program. Here's Ernest Hill.
Texas, they know they playing against a mediocre group of 5 team. Let's be honest. They're not going to prepare like they normally do. That's why we are, and we're going to try to go do our best and, see what the chips fall.
All right. Now the point at the end's not bad, but the point at the beginning, I don't know why he called his team mediocre though. He did literally call he said they know it's a mediocre group of 5 team. I don't know why he would throw that out there. But getting back to it, I have no idea what the motivation would be for Ernest Hill to throw out these statements. But I do believe if you were going to catch Texas by surprise and they were distracted by their lofty rating, being the number 1 team in the country for the first time since 2008, then you just lost the element of surprise, Ernest. The element of surprise is gone now, Ernest. Now, Ernest, you've gone viral now, Ernest. You're out there. Fall Feinbaum is probably bringing you up now, Ernest. So you've gone viral. But like I say, maybe this was the master plan. Maybe we have all underestimated Ernest Hill. Okay. Now we're talking about Ernest. Now I know his name. I can't stop saying it now. I don't even know a lot of. I haven't said the name Ernest in quite some time. It's one of those names that the popularity of it is waning, right? And you don't meet a lot of young Ernests out there, right? Because it's one of those names. Hey, it's not as popular as it once used to be. So I haven't said the name Ernest in a while, and I don't even know that many popular or famous Ernest. This is maybe the first one that I'm throwing out there. But I'll admit, maybe he is taking advantage of the spotlight. He's playing the number one team in the country. They won't play a team with a higher profile all year long. I don't know if he's ever in his coaching career coached in a game that was higher profile than this one because they're playing the number one team in the country. Texas hadn't been number one since 2008. It's just rare. You're not number one all the time. Doesn't happen a lot. And they're playing the number one team in the country. Maybe Ernest's plan is to, while the eyes are now finally, or at least some attention, some impressions they're getting fixated on ULM for a change, people finally doing some research on who are the players on the ULM roster, who are the coaches on ULM. Maybe he wants some recognition. I would say his defense isn't terrible. And that's one of the bright spots about this ULM squad. Their defense, if you go look at overall, they would be considered probably a top 40 defense. They're top 25 in rushing defense. They're top 35 in total defense. They're top 25 in scoring defense. Maybe he really likes his defense versus a Texas offense. Maybe he believes that this is where he can get his next promotion. That if he goes out there with a really good game plan versus the Texas offense, and then people will start to Google Ernest Hill and learn about his resume, which I've already done. I'll give Ernest Hill some credit. He's already convinced me to look him up. He's had success, actually. He was at UAB as a DB coach at 2 years. This is his first year at ULM, and he was a DB coach prior to that at UAB. And before that, he was a high school coach in Alabama, took his team to a state title appearance, was 40-8 as a high school coach. So he went at least at that last high school stop. So yeah, ain't bad. I mean, it's pretty good. So he's had success and he's been a fast riser. So maybe he's like, hey, I'm not long for ULM anyway. I ain't going to be here long. I'm about to show out here. Everybody's going to learn my name. I'm going to be a famous Ernest. And then boom, I'm going to the next big job. There you go. That could be it. I have no idea why Ernest is providing bulletin board material for Texas, but God bless him. We need the storylines, and Texas could use a little extra motivation. I don't think they need it, but you can always use a little extra incentive. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So I'm sure that in the locker room, it's made the rounds. It's a beautiful thing.
I think he just is used to not being heard. I think he's just used to being to say whatever he wants to say, and he's like, my team will hear it, my fans will hear it. And that's it. No one else is following us. No one else cares. We're a mediocre team in the mid-major, so what's going to happen? We'll just say whatever we want. It's not like Texas people are, going to come after us and find this and put it in the locker rooms.
He has no idea how obsessive we are about the Texas media. We don't follow anything about Texas football. Sorry, Ernest. Yeah, it's just a good point though. Maybe Ernest does this every week, and this is the first week because he's playing Texas. They're number one, and now we're paying attention. And Ernest, maybe it is a roll moment. He's like, I didn't know that was going to go viral, and now he's like, I'm viral now. And so you could be right. This could be because he's first of all, a defensive coordinator. Like people thought it was the head coach because Brian Vincent, I believe, is the head coach. I haven't seen any audio of Brian. I'm sure you can go out there and find it.
No, I mean, he spoke to the media that day as well. Like I can find his video. I can find both videos.
Oh, he didn't say anything interesting.
I think he was smarter about it and thought, you know what I don't want to do? I don't want to get my players killed out there because if nothing else, these guys are faster, stronger, bigger.
Yes, they are.
And now our guys may want it more, and our guys may go play their hearts out, and we may have better. But we know, if nothing else, their guys are physically bigger than us. They are faster than us, and they are stronger than us. Those are just undeniable facts.
Yeah.
So now we would prefer not to have those guys also want to kill us.
Also angry and mad and motivated. I'm grateful to Ernest Hill. This is fantastic. I am very grateful because this is an added storyline. Now I'm watching him on the sideline. I'm watching it. Well, they do have some. If I'm thinking about the players that I like most on the ULM team, we always play the game that we always have the thought experiment of, okay, what player on that roster can make the Texas roster then? Like, how many players do they have that can make that Texas roster? And I think they have like maybe one guy that can do it and it's on defense. Maybe two. Maybe two. I mean, see, I've been saying they got two really good players, I think, on defensive side of the ball, and maybe he feels really good about that group, and they're gonna have to prove it in that game versus Texas. And now you got Sark, who's motivated too because he took a little shot at Arch, so maybe they'll let Arch show off a little bit early in the game. Maybe we'll have Arch taking a shot early in the game. Maybe, something like that. I don't think Arch is going to be running the football a lot. Yeah, he shouldn't because you don't want to put him in harm's way. But anyway, I like that Ernest is giving us another storyline to talk about. It was lacking a little bit of it was lacking some mojo, if you will. This ULM matchup. I think everybody was just talking about Arch starting, and that was the only storyline going in. And now we got another added element. So we appreciate Ernest in that regard. All right, let's talk about before we get behind the Burn curtain here, the defensive concept in the NFL that they at least Mel Kiper is on the bandwagon. He believes that they should ban this concept, and the concept is the two high safeties. I've talked about this, bro. The two high safeties right now in the NFL, they're playing more two high safeties than ever before. Mina Kimes claims that in week 1 alone that yes, she was on NFL Live. She claims that they were playing two high safeties 60% of the time. So everybody may have different stats about it, but they're playing it at a extremely high rate. They have not played two high safeties at this rate anytime in NFL history. Is the highest rate, and it's causing a lot of different adaptations, like modifications to offenses. Right there, they're changing their approach. They're throwing the football now short, and they're checking down more than ever before. And I saw these stats now. That I think I shared some of these earlier. Your sack rate is higher than it's been in the 2000s, the highest since the 2000s, 7.8%. So more quarterbacks are getting sacked. Passing yards per game is the lowest since 2015. Passing yards per game per team. You're at 193.2. Your average depth of target is 6.9 yards now in 2024. You go look at the points per game to date. You're at 21.4 points per game per team to date. That continues the downward trend. You peaked in 2020 at 24.8, and for 3 straight years, the average has dropped in points per game per team. Total yardage is down as well, with teams averaging 318 yards per game. Last year was 331, 359 in 2020, and I believe the average before that in 2019 you were at 340. So the last 3 or 4 years you've seen a consistent decline in those numbers. And it's not just about the pace of things. Yards per play are down, points per drive are down, and essentially defense is just taking what offense are just taking what the defense is giving them. Defense is deciding we're going to keep 2 deep safeties. That means we cannot stack the box, which means we're going to invite you to run the football. Please run the football. Is basically what they're asking offenses, or please throw it short underneath. And offenses are doing just that. They're chunking it underneath. They are deciding to run the football more than ever because there are light boxes now. How about this? The average depth of throw against 2 high coverages in 2020 was 7.8 yards. It has dropped all the way down now. The average depth of throw, as we pointed out, you're at 6.9 yards in 2024. But how about this? Offenses threw the ball an average of 1.9 yards short of the first down marker against 2 deep safeties in 2022. In 2020. This year, they're throwing an average of 3.2 yards short of the sticks against 2 high looks. So in 2020, 11.6% of passes against 2 high looks traveled at least 20 yards in the air. This season, you're just down to 9% of passes traveling 20 yards or more versus 2 deep safeties. Teams just don't want to try it. Basically, just the presentation of 2 deep safeties has deterred teams. And it's basically it's a deterrent. It's all it is. It's a straight up. It's the deterrent with alignment. A lot of times, guys from the too high, they'll shift to a single high safety, or they'll shift and have both of them come down and run man or zero coverage. Doesn't always mean they're gonna continue to keep the two high safeties there. That's just a shell presentation of the two high looks, and a lot of that times, like I say, it's just a deterrent to have those two high safeties there. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's interesting. The teams that are bold enough to throw against the two high safeties, they have actually had more success over the last 4 or 5 years than previously against two high shell looks, which makes me, to my point, I think they're more of a deterrent than actually an effective counter for teams throwing it downfield when they actually just do decide to test the two deep safeties. So how about this? On throws of 15 plus yards against two high this year so far, teams have a 50% success rate. Success rate is when on first down, you get at least 50% of the yards needed to gain the first, to convert. On second down, it's 70%. And on third down, it's 100% of the yards needed to convert. So if you gain 50% on first, 70% on second, and 100% of the yards needed to convert on those particular downs, that determines your success rate. So 50% success rate on passes 15 yards or more versus two high safeties. Quarterbacks have had a 19% off target rate, but an 8.1% touchdown rate, 5% interception rate. How about this? A 35% explosive play rate when they throw against two high safeties. So teams are gaining an average of 13.3 yards per attempt. So all those numbers I just mentioned are the best since 2019 going up against two high safeties. So if you do test it, there's evidence that there's been a lot of success when you test those two deep safety, but teams don't want to test it. That's the whole point. They're not testing it at all. And teams are running the football more because it makes sense because you're playing against lighter boxes because they have two deep safety. They can't stack the box with two deep safeties. Numerically, it's impossible. So you got a 57, damn near 58% light box percentage. That's when you have fewer defenders than they have blockers. So with a light box, which means, hey, let's run the football. We got the numbers advantage. That number was 53% in 2019. The light box percentage. So with a light box, teams are running the football more. But here's the kicker. Teams were averaging 1.9 yards before contact per rush versus a light box in 2019. So damn near 2 yards before contact per rush. We just talked about the Cowboys at damn near allowing 4 yards after contact per rush. So there, we talked about that too, but before contact per rush, 1.9 in 2019. In 2024, that number has dropped to 1.4. So you have more teams, all right, who are running the football against lighter boxes, and they're not gaining as many yards before contact. That means the offensive line is not getting a push that they once was. Why is that the case? Why is the offensive line not getting a bigger push when they're playing against a lighter box? And my theory is the defensive tackles, that's why they're paying a lot of the big money. They've gotten to the point where they become a premium position for the D tackles who can be elite run stuffers on early downs, and that can be elite pass rushers on third downs and on passing downs, which is why you have more interior D linemen right now making $20+ million a year than edge rushers. You have, in 2014, the top 10 edge rushers made 44% more than the top 10 D tackles. Now the top 10 edge rushers make 6% more than the top 10 D tackles. You have 14 edge rushers making $20+ million, and I believe, you had 14. And now you will look at the interior D linemen. Sorry, you have 12 edges making $20+ million, and you have 13 interior D linemen making $20+ million. Like that. So the times have just kind of shifted. And I think now if you get in those war daddy D tackles, which everybody covets, Cowboys need to follow that trend because they need one too. And then it allows you to be able to stop the run with a light box because these guys are either so massive that they can clog up a gap and a half, which is their sheer size, like a Tavondre Sweat, or they're so disruptive that they demand a double team, and your light box, they flip the numbers advantage, and it becomes an even box because it takes 2 of your linemen to block 1 of their D tackles. And I think that's what's happening. So why teams aren't having more success running the football versus light boxes. Now, I think overall they are, but not in terms of yards before contact. I think yards after contact, that's more of a running back stat. That's more of the running back skill. And to me, they are responsible for more of that. The O-line, to me, they're the yards before contact. I think that's more of the O-line stat. And the O-lines are not winning versus light boxes as much as they were 5 years ago. And the reason for that, I think, is because of these war daddy D tackles they're paying a lot of money to. But either way, the question is to the NFL now, because passing touchdowns, fewest passing touchdowns since 2006. You had 5 300 plus yard passing games in the first 2 weeks of the season, guys. It was 13 each of the last 2 years. It was 21 in 2021. It was 16 through first 2 weeks of 300 plus yard passing games in 2020. There were 20 300 plus yard passing games in the first 2 weeks of 2019. There were 13 in 2017, 20 in 2016. You get it, right? There are lots of 300 plus yard passing games in the first 2 weeks of the season, but this year you only got 5 through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. That is a significant drop. Passing touchdowns, you got 69. That is the fewest since 2006. Designed rush percentage, though, highest since 2008, 41%. Designed rush rate, and the highest you've seen in terms of too high safety rate, highest we've seen in ever, period. Highest on record since they've been keeping track of it. So should the NFL, like Major League Baseball, has banned the shift? And I don't know, what's an NBA equivalent to this? A basketball, Patrick, the 3-second rule? Like what's the
3-second banning zone?
Banning zone. There you go. Yeah. That would be the equivalent of this. I don't think the NFL is going to do it. They are concerned. They should be. But I don't think they're going to ban it. I don't think they would do that. They're discussing it, though. I guarantee they're discussing what they could do to help promote more offense, because it seems like that defensive strategy, although very simplistic, it's working. It's working. NFL offense is deciding, I'm going to work smarter, not harder. You're going to give me a light box, I'm going to hand it off. You're going to drop your 2 safeties, I'm going to dump it off. Take that check down. And it's just, that's not really an entertaining product. Probably still leads to you moving the football, but the NFL wants to have it be a vertical league. Chicks dig the long ball. It's the equivalent of taking away the home run in baseball. You want more home runs, not fewer home runs. Now, what's your home run? Those are your highlights. Those are your highlights, man. Those are your points. Those are your records being broken in 17 games. The NFL wants that. And now the NFL is not getting that.
No, which is what the shift was. You hit in the shift, it means guys are out every single play or it's a home run, and that's all they can do is hit or out or a home run because they're always going to hit one direction. So you're like, no, we need some balls in play too so that these guys don't get benched and we lose all our big hitters. Because now they're batting, 150, and so they're getting benched. So we get a guy that maybe can get some base hits, so we can get these big power guys in the lineup and get home runs.
And I would say all the changes they made in baseball worked. Guys are running the bases more balls in play, quicker games. That all worked for them. I don't like I said, if it gets worse, I could see the NFL doing anything. I don't know if it gets worse. The quarterbacks coming to the league are also, I don't know, adding to this problem, but they're definitely a factor a variable to consider, because there's more scrambles and more quarterback run game than ever before. Like, we've never seen this many quarterbacks scrambling and this many design runs for the quarterback too. So that also is, I think, something to consider, how the game is evolving and changing with defenses adapting and modifying their approach. All right, there you go. So we'll come back. We'll get into Texas football conversation on the other side. We'll talk about their upcoming opponent, ULM. I'll give you some details about some of their standout players and what they're trying to achieve versus Texas defense. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation. Let's talk about the Longhorns' upcoming opponent, Louisiana Monroe. Let's start with the ULM offense. We started with defense last time. Let's start with the offense, and they basically they want to run a football. I mean, their identity is running the football. That's where their I would say that's where their difference makers are right now in offense is in the backfield. They do have 3 guys who are averaging right around a little over or right below 5 yards per carry. That's Ahmad Hardy. He's their leading rusher, got the most attempts, 33, and the most rushing yards, 161. But they have a true committee. He's right below 5 yards per carry, but he's their leading back. James Jones is another back for them. He might be the most efficient of the runners. He's averaging almost 5.5 yards per rush. He's their second leading rusher. And then there's Tavon Curie, who they use, I think, in the passing game a little bit more too. He does have 2 receptions. The only running back, by the way, that has any receptions on the season. So he's a guy they'll use also in the passing game. Tavon Curry, he's got their third leading rusher, but still averaging over 5 yards per carry. They haven't played anybody. They played Jackson State, I believe it was, and the UAB are their only 2 games, but they're undefeated. So they're feeling real good about themselves right now. But this is a running team. They probably want to run a lot of zone, a lot of inside zone, a lot of wide zone. Those are 2 of the more popular concepts from them, but I think you're looking at it inside zone, outside zone, or wide zone. That'll be their bread and butter. Texas should be really familiar with that because Texas runs a lot of inside and outside zone as well. They also will get a little funky in some of their run concepts, running out of pistol. And we talked about that even with the Rams and the Rams running a lot of pistol. We talked about that. Something the Cowboys might see versus the Baltimore Ravens. It's a way for you to run downhill without getting under center. It's a marriage between shotgun and it's a great compromise between shotgun and center. These days, it's hard to teach young guys who grew up in shotgun systems coming out of high school to get under center, and then the footwork changes completely, being under center and all that. So, they don't want them in shotgun because they do want to have a downhill running game where you can hand off to the running back and the running back can actually get momentum and head of steam. So the marriage is the pistol. All right, break out the pistol, and then you basically still in front of the back and allow the back to run downhill, but you don't have the sophisticated, oftentimes difficult footwork associated with a quarterback being under center and then still having to get back in his drop or hand the football off. So you'll see that from them. Texas shouldn't be that unfamiliar with it. Texas has seen that in the Big 12 before with some of the other really creative run games. And so I think for Texas, there won't be anything that they should be shocked by conceptually. They'll run from some more power packages of 12 personnel, or they'll obviously run from some spread sets. They'll run from some power sets. They just want to run. They don't want to throw the football. General Booty is their quarterback. He's been efficient, transferred from Oklahoma, over 63% completion percentage. He's got 1 touchdown, 0 picks, so he's not going to beat them, and he doesn't take a lot of chances with the football. They don't want him to. 6.4 yards per attempt. He's throwing for less than 100 yards, per game. That's not what they want to do. So if you can force this team who's thrown the ball 31 times so far this year, you can force them to throw the ball 20, 25 times. That's basically what you want, because that is for them. That would be them abandoning their identity. And their identity is they want to run the rock and they want to run the football and they want to get in third and manageable or third and short. So they have a chance to convert, because they're in third and long. It's going to be a long day for them. Speaking of, if they are throwing the football 20, 25 times, which you want to hope they do against Texas, their down the field threat is Javon Campbell. He's a bigger wide receiver too. He's about 6'3", 215. He's the guy averaging 17 yards per catch, or actually almost 18 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. He's got 5 receptions, 89 yards, but they want to go play action. They want to go vertical down the field. He is their vertical threat. Devon Wells is their leading receiver, at least in receptions. He's their leading receiver. Javon Campbell has the most yards on the team, but Devon Wells, he's only averaging 6.6 yards per reception. So a lot of his target share, probably extensions of the running game, just long handoffs. So I think for Texas, that's the role that he plays with them. So all the quick, short stuff, that'll be going to Devon Wells. They want to take a shot downfield. That'll probably be Javon Campbell. And then they have the third leading receiver has 3 receptions for 29 yards, guys. They got a Nate Sullivan who has 3 receptions for 29 yards. He's a tight end. But then after that, Jacob Godfrey, 2 receptions for 26 yards. You get the point. They don't want to throw the football. You want to make them throw the football. Texas has and to me, their defensive identity is the fact they're so versatile. They're so malleable that they can snatch a team's strength away from them and force you to beat them left-handed. And they did it versus Colorado State against the air raid. Had them, but they threw for less than 75 yards in that game, rushed for more yards than they threw for. Michigan power run team averaged less than 4 yards per carry against UTSA. I'm not really sure what UTSA's strength was actually, but you pretty much stonewalled UTSA. You did give up that big touchdown run, but other than that, I mean, you suffocated that UTSA offense too. But this is a team that has a clear identity. And when you have a clear defined identity, I think Texas has the versatility to take it away. So if you get them in 3rd and long and they're throwing and they got to throw the football more than 20 and between 20 and 25 times, mission accomplished. You took away their strength. And then force General Booty to beat you. We should be able to make a lot of booty references about booty on the ground, booty getting sacked, you know what I mean? Oh, booty with a blunder, whatever it is, whatever booty joke. We should be making booty jokes for essentially 2.5 to 3 quarters of just booty jokes. They'll probably take them out, actually. So maybe 2 quarters. They'll probably take them out. If it's too much exploitation of the booty, they'll probably just say, you know what? No, you got to take it out. That's our starting quarterback. I love his, by the way, his name is General Maximus Booty. Forgot that out there. Maximus Axel Booty. That's his whole name. General Maximus Axel Booty. Well done. Whoever his parents, I'm sure his parents will be there too. Well done. That's quality work there. But yeah, you want Booty to beat you. All right. You want Booty to beat you, and you need to put belt to booty. There you go. You want Booty to beat you, and then you need to, belt to booty. There you go. Make a t-shirt about it. It probably will sell pretty good at that. We got 2 t-shirt ideas here so far on the show. Ernest goes to DKR for Ernest Hill, the defensive coordinator, if you will him. Ernest goes to DKR, and then you'll see him getting whipped and spanked or whatever, or getting run out of DKR. And then now we got the belt to booty. Boom. T-shirt ideas. Belt to booty. Easy money. All right. Jump to the Texas. Oh, speaking of 3rd down, I told you I'd share this with you. So I'll be quick about it. I won't break it down in great detail because I want to get to the other side of the ball with their defense. But I went and looked at every 3rd and long because that's what you want these teams in. 3rd and long is when 3rd and long is 3rd and 7, at least 7 yards to gain. And 3rd and long is when the odds usually flip in favor of the defense finally winning a down. That's what all the analytics and the odds say. That's why 3rd and 7 is the number. So when Texas has defended 3rd and 7, at least 3rd and 7 or more yards to gain, it's happened 21 times this season. Out of those 21 times Texas has defended 3rd and long, they've been in either a NASCAR dime, which the dime is 6 DBs. NASCAR package is when you have 3 D ends on the field, 3 edges on the field. So they've been either in that exotic package, or they have been running a 3-high shell presentation, a 3-high safety shell. Remember the 3 highs that we talked about? They've been in either or, sometimes and those concepts defending 3rd and longs on 18 of 21 3rd and longs in 2024. That's a trend. That's an MO. They got that. That's their modus operandi. When you're in 3rd and long, I pretty much know what Texas is going to throw out there. And they've only allowed 1 conversion, I believe. of those third and longs, throwing out those looks. All right, let's talk about the Texas offense versus their defense and what the Texas defense will see. I actually think they got a couple of good players on their defense. My two favorite players on their defense, actually, one is he's a JUCO transfer, Billy Pullen. He actually is a JUCO transfer. He was a JUCO Defensive Player of the Year, actually. He's from Texas. He's from Kaufman, Texas. Went to JUCO and had 14 sacks last year as a Defensive Player of the Year, and has 3 sacks already in 2 games with ULM. So he might be one of those guys, just a natural pass rusher. He's 6'2", about 245, just a natural pass rusher. He'll have a chance against the Texas O-line, going up against one of the best O-lines in the country to prove that. But he's a junior, and he's a havoc-minded player. He makes a lot of plays. He's forced a fumble so far this year. He's I think, their best player. He's their best player. He's one of the guys that we always talk about who had a chance to make the Texas roster. Maybe he would. He's a good player. So Billy Pullen's a guy to watch. Also, Wydett Williams Jr. He's a safety or more of a DB because I think I've seen him line up at nickel too. I actually love his game. He's a junior too, so he's a veteran. Really good player. Has 1 tackle for loss so far this year, 1 interception so far this year. He's got a pass deflection already. So just one of those havoc-minded players, makes plays on the football, and he's got a good frame too. 6'2", 200, stands out when you watch him on film. Another player on defense I think is really productive for him is Carl Glass. He is Carl Glass, the linebacker for him, and he's their leading tackler on the team. And he's another guy that's a veteran. He's a senior. So they got a senior presence, a veteran presence in the middle of that defense. And he's been a starter for him all year long. So he's there. He's the guy. So it pretty much, at every level, they got a guy that is a playmaker at every level. And they've made a lot of plays on the football. Carlin Vigors is a corner. He's got a pick 6 on the season. They got they got 3 forced fumbles on the season already, got 2 fumble recoveries on the season already, got 2 interceptions on the season already. And I told you, the rush defense, top 25 total defense, top 35 scoring defense, top 25 scoring defense. Their pass defense is probably just average, but their defense, and maybe this is why Ernest Hills is very confident going into this game. Defense has a couple of playmakers on it, and they've played good football so far as a cohesive unit. They haven't seen anything like the hailstorm they got coming versus Texas, but so far they have played up to a high level versus that level of competition. All right, so there you go. That's a little getting to know the ULM Wars. And I will say this: I was talking about that ULM offense. I forgot to drop this little factoid for you because I found it when I was doing research this morning about ULM. In terms of how often the targets at or behind the line of scrimmage, talking about that passing game, how they don't even want to throw the football vertically downfield. They're a bit vertically challenged. Even when they do throw the ball, if you look at targets at or behind the line of scrimmage, 44% of their targets are at or behind the line of scrimmage. And only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in FBS have more targets at or behind the line of scrimmage than ULM. So everything happens really right there within 5 to 10 yards. If you're Texas, you can just suffocate and flood that zone, that area, because you don't have to worry about defending the entire field and every blade of grass. All right, we come back. We'll get into Off the Record on the other side. This college football program is doing what? All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I know we got a little short time here, so get right to it. I saw this at On Three, and honestly, I think this is going to be a trend we see more of. Tennessee, they are adding what they call a talent fee to ticket prices to raise money to give the players after when the new financial landscape is laid out, when they have to have revenue sharing with the players. They're going to add a talent fee. Yeah, 10% talent fee to ticket prices. That's gonna be a lot of money when you think about it. 10% talent fee
10%
to
is a
every
lot.
ticket. That's a lot. But I mean, they do have to. I mean, they do have to raise. I don't know. I get an extra like $15 to $20 million
They do.
for revenue sharing. But
They do.
I'm not saying they don't have it. They got it. I'm just saying they don't want to have to give up the revenue that they already are making.
Yeah.
They'd rather now add more revenue and then give that to the players rather than it cut into their profits.
They don't want to get
all.
rid of useless bureaucratic jobs that have been stealing money for, decades and decades. They'd like to keep those so they will screw the people over once again.
Yeah.
It's the American way.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah, you're right about that. So I don't know, guys. Be on the lookout for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's no way CDC would ever do it. CDC's not doing that kind of stuff. But I think it'll happen to a lot of the other universities because Texas doesn't have to do it. But a lot of other schools, that's maybe how they try to close the financial gap.
Yeah.
So
no, they're going to put that in the visitors section. CDC will put on the visitor section.
Oh yeah, you can do that. Yeah, tax the visitor section. There you go. Put all the concessions around the visitor section a little higher.
just you want to come see your team play? All right, you're paying for our team then.
They already got them up in the. Well, they got the band up in the nosebleeds.
I love it. I still love that.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with it. And tell people, they'll reciprocate it when you visit them too. Trust me, they'll put you up in the nosebleeds. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I like that kind of a petty little. It's petty, but it's still classy kind of petty. It's like no. It's a passive aggressive.
We got seats for you. Don't
passive
worry.
Petty. Yeah,
we got seats for you.
Exactly. Oh no, we took care of you. We took care of you. You got the best seats in now. That view can't beat it. Can't beat it. Got the tower in the back. It's beautiful.
It's like inviting somebody you don't want at your wedding and you put them at the kids' table.
Yeah. Oh, we got a spot for you.
No,
yeah.
Don't worry.
We got a spot for you. Oh, you'll have a lot of fun. This group, a lot of energy, high energy group there at that table. All right, good stuff. All right, we come back. We'll get into NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We'll talk Cowboys. We'll talk Texans. We'll talk Texans and their matchup with the Vikings. It's very compelling. And then we'll get into the Cowboys and their matchup with the Ravens. I've been looking at some of the shows this morning, and everybody's picking the Ravens in that matchup. The Cowboys left a bad taste in everybody's mouth after watching them just get ran downhill on by the Saints. So everybody thinks the Ravens are going to do the same thing. We'll discuss how the Cowboys can keep that from happening. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday, and of course, that's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, comes up with all the music themed days of the week. But on Thursday, he's inspired to come up with a very creative theme for New Theme Thursday, and today, all the songs have fall in the title. I mentioned fall in the title because he is trying to summon fall, the season, to come a little bit quicker. We thought it was upon us, and turns out we were wrong about that because it's still hot and humid outside. So he is trying to summon fall as best he can. He's going to help us out with a new theme Thursday with all the songs that mention fall in some way, not fall the season, but still, hey, good enough. We're just trying to get football weather here as fast as possible. And I'm with you. I'm ready for football weather. We're getting close to October, man. Come on now. I mean, now we're creeping close to October. We need to be. Yeah. I need to get done waking up in the morning, walking outside, and sweating. Like,
exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. Yes. I just want that. I want the day we've had one day that was really like it, where I opened the front door and I got hit with a blast of colder air than inside my house. Yep. And
it
now
was nippy that day. Yeah.
It was nippy. And now every day you open it and you just get that heat wave hit you, and you're like, oh,
humidity. It's just
not a fan.
It's like somebody's trying. It's like stuffy. It does. I mean, trust me. We all know the feeling. It's horrible. Yeah. And I remember that morning because we talked about it for like 5 minutes. We're like, it's amazing. I can put a jacket on. It's so cool. It was great. Yeah. So hopefully that is the case.
I wonder that's too. Usually you're week 4. You're not thinking for ULM, hey, we're going to Texas. By the way, it's still going to be 100 plus on the field.
What's the temperature for the games that time? Did we ever check that? I mean, it's going to be hot. We know that. But at least it'll be later. So
yeah, it's a 7 o'clock game. So at least the sun will be down for the second half.
Down. Yeah,
the high on Saturday is 95.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. We're late September now. I guess mid-September technically, but heading to late September, and it's still 95. All right, it's coming though. That's why my man Patrick's hooking you up on New Theme Thursday. We're trying to conjure the fall. All right. Also, he conjures up great questions, very thought-provoking ones for the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, which is posted at the Horn ATX on X. Go check it out for yourself, Patrick. What's the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day?
Big Fat Poll of the day. Which one-loss team in college football has the best chance to make the playoffs? We gave you the top 4 ranked number one-loss teams: LSU, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Clemson. Right now, Notre Dame is winning at 40%, 30% saying LSU, saying that's still a good team. I mean, they're almost a 2-loss team. We're very close to being a 2-loss team already.
Close. Yeah.
And their season basically being completely derailed already. But people believe that they've got some talent there. They got a shot to get in the playoffs. And there is the fact that people now believe there could be 5 SEC teams in the playoffs.
I've been saying 5 for a while. I said 5, at least 4, but I said you could get 5. I didn't, I just looking at the rankings now. I think it's still very realistic. I said before the season, though, I said 5 is probably going to be the number because you're going to have a surprise team in the SEC. I thought that people didn't expect to be good that might end up being good.
Yes.
And I don't even know if we got a surprise team. I just think that a lot of teams are really good. Maybe Tennessee is going to be that surprise team, and people like Tennessee before the season. So, I still think I'm going with Clemson. Might be the pick here.
Yeah, Michigan and Clemson are tied at 15% down at the bottom there, but Clemson they only have to play. That's Louisville's the only ranked team left on their schedule.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah,
and it's not like
crazy.
And it's not like the playoffs. So like last year's playoffs, they wouldn't have made.
No,
because they didn't have a strength of schedule, and people would have said, "No, you're the one you got knocked out. We'll put other people in." But for this year, if they win the ACC, they're in. There's no questions asked. Done. You win the ACC, you're in. And so they would technically play Miami. I would assume would be the other person you would assume would be in the ACC championship game. And that would be the other team that right now is unbeaten in the ACC that's ranked. So that would be your best opponent that you would play in the championship game. And then if you could beat them in one game, you're in the playoffs. I mean, maybe even if you lose, they put 2 ACC teams in, but that's questionable at how that conference plays out. But they just play in a much easier conference.
Yeah, and I'm surprised Notre Dame's getting the love they're getting here. I like Notre Dame, but man, Marcus Freeman, it's a he's kind of a hot. To me, it's boost boom or bust for him. Like he'll beat a really good team, a ranked team, but then there's no time he'll lose to an unranked team. Like he's kind of
he lost in Northern Illinois. That's
yeah. So I don't know if I can trust him throughout the rest of the season to be able to hold up essentially to win out. I don't know if I trust him that much. But like I said, I like the team, but they have a really high ceiling, but a really low floor. That's what for Notre Dame. Like you're not supposed to lose to Northern Illinois. You're supposed to have a bad game and ugly win, but find a way to win that game, and they did not. So I don't love Notre Dame either, but right now they are the popular pick. 39% of you voting that Notre Dame is the one-loss team that has the best chance to make the college football playoff. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into, after these horn headlines, we'll come back and dive into Texans, Vikings, and Cowboys and the Ravens. But first, let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the horn headlines.
All right, your horn headline is brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Astros lost their rubber match game with the Padres 4-0 yesterday. While Framber Valdez was able to go 7 innings, striking out 6 and only allowing 1 run, Dylan Cease pitched 8 1/3 innings for San Diego, only allowing 2 hits. The Astros now move on to a 4-game series with the Angels starting tonight in Houston, with Yusei Kikuchi getting the start for the Astros. The Rangers won the second game in their series with the Blue Jays last night, this time with superb pitching, shutting them out 2-0. Cody Bradford pitched 7 innings with 6 strikeouts, and Adolis Garcia hit a 2-run homer in the 6th to put up the only runs of the game. The Rangers will look to sweep Toronto today, with Kumar Rocker getting his second major league start. In college football, major Applewhite South Alabama Jaguars will try to follow up an 87-10 win last week as they take on Appalachian State tonight. And in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets take on the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football, and that is your horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the horn headlines. Appreciate those. Let's talk about this Texans-Vikings matchup a little bit. Let's talk about the Texans offense. The Texans defense versus that Vikings offense. I know we spent a lot of time on the other matchup, and we'll get back to that. But let's talk about this Vikings offense, which Sam Darnold as the starting quarterback, playing his best football of his career right now. We've talked about this and documented that if you go look at the rankings for quarterback Pro Football Focus passing grade, for passer rating, if you look at QBR as well, Sam Darnold is in the top 5 of all of those metrics. He is number 3 in Pro Football Focus passing grade. He is 5th in passer rating right now. And he is tied for 5th in QBR. There's no way Sam Darnold has ever been ranked that high in any stretch of playing time at any point in his career. So he's playing the best football that he's played, and a lot of it is because of that offense and the running game. Let me give you the stats on the running game. Now, the Texans' rush defense is one of the best in the NFL. It's really good. It pretty much stonewall the Colts, except for Anthony Richardson making some scrambles and making some plays with his legs, and they stonewall the Chicago Bears running game, but that is not that hard to do. But we talked about success rate earlier. The Vikings have the number 1 success rate on running back design runs so far this season. 55%, 54.8, I'll round it up. 54.8% of their running back design runs. All right. Basically on first down, give you 50% or more of the yards needed to gain. On second down, give you 70% or more of the yards needed to gain to convert the first down. And on third down and fourth down, 100% of the yards needed to gain on third down and fourth down to convert. They do that 55% of the time. That's a really high number. They're the 5th lowest stuff rate, or basically best stuff rate, I should say, meaning only 9.5% of their runs are stopped for 0 gains or for a loss. And that's so less than 10% of their runs are stopped for no gain or a loss. Last year, that was 19%. Last year, only 8.9% of their runs went for at least 10 yards. This year, we're at 19%. Flip it. All right. And if you, this is one of the most stunning stats. I gave it in What the Facts, What the Stats. If you look at runs last season by running backs that for the Vikings that reached at least 15 miles per hour, they had 30 such runs where a running back reached at least 15 miles per hour last season, the entire season, 17 games. They have already got 13 such runs in 2 games. They're off and running. That's number one. You got to stop the running attack for Minnesota. You got to. As Patrick mentioned, they got Aaron Jones back there now. You got to figure that out. The Texans got a really good rush defense, so I'm not worried about the running attack going off. But if it is having a lot of success for the Texans, it could be a long day. Remember, I said Texans are really good at tackling, so that's a good sign. They're first in tackling efficiency in the NFL. That's a really good sign. So you're not going to get a lot of yards after contact. You're not going to get a lot of explosive plays because guys miss tackles. They're pretty assignment sound and they tackle really well. And I do wonder if they're going to blitz Sam Darnold or if, they'll decide to kind of play it straight up. They blitzed the hell out of Caleb Williams. They play a lot of man. They basically decided early on in the game that the Chicago offensive line couldn't block the blitz and that the wide receivers couldn't get open versus man coverage. And they said, to hell with it. Let's play man. Let's blitz them. They blitzed and played man on 73% of the Bears' third down dropbacks on Sunday. No fear. They just like, man, we going. And that's why they rattled the cage of Caleb Williams. So in this game against Sam Darnold, I wonder how much you'll see him blitz, because by the way, that was the highest blitz rate in that game for DeMeco Ryans' defense since he's been the Texans head coach. So he doesn't really blitz that often either. And here's a real question. In addition to, how you're going to apply the pressure, and you could just go with Will Anderson and and Danielle Hunter to apply pressure. By the way, they could do it really well. I saw this stat too. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, according to Next Gen Stats, second and tied for third in the NFL in pressures. Got 13 and 12 between them. So they could give you organic pressure where you may not have to bring the blitz, but they were really blitz happy. So I'm not sure if that was opponent specific against the Chicago Bears, or because they couldn't handle it, or if that's something the Texans want to do more of because they believe now they got the corners to hold up on the back end because of Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. Also, something to keep in mind, how do you take away Justin Jefferson? What's your plan to take away the best receiver in the game? Because the 49ers had a plan and it did not work. So I think you go with the old Belichickian philosophy. You double the number one receiver, which means you're going to double Justin Jefferson. Just take him out. We're going to put one guy over the top of him, or we're going to put, one guy underneath and a corner over the top, but there will be 2 defenders on him. Just take them away. And specifically on passing downs, maybe on early downs, you don't do as much, but double the number one receiver. Take your best cornerback, who is Derek Stingley, and put him on whoever the number 2 receiver is, whoever their top number 2 receiver is. Because last game against DJ Moore, Derek Stingley shadowed him, lined up across from DJ Moore on 65% of his routes. So they'll let Derek Stingley shadow a guy, let him shadow number 2, and then make them beat you with the number 3 receiver in the passing game, whoever their number 3 receiver is. That was always the Belichickian philosophy. Double number 1, take them clean out of the game. Let your best cornerback match up man to man on the number 2 guy. Should be an easier task for him, an assignment, and then make number 3 beat you. And if number 3 beats you, then hell, you make the adjustments from there. That's how I think they should handle Justin Jefferson. He's too dangerous to take a chance with. He's way too dangerous, man. I think the 49ers took a chance with him. Just take that dude out of the equation and then recalculate the math, right? After you just take him out of the equation and figure out, how to approach the defense from there and how to reallocate the resources, but I wouldn't take a chance, at least early in the game, and get that guy out of the equations. We'll see what the Texans do, but that's how I would go about it. The other thing that concerns me about this matchup is flipping to Texans offense versus that Brian Flores defense is really how the Texans, how they set themselves up for third down. So really, I'm going to go back to first down. They got to win on first down, which they did not do against the Bears. The number that I have for them against the Bears, and I got it from NFL Live, but you can go do the calculations on your own. On first down against the Bears, they averaged 2.6 yards per carry when they ran the ball on first down. They ran it 16 times at 2.6 yards per rush. They averaged 0.6 yards per rush after carry. After contact, after contact. 0.6 yards per rush after contact on first down. This is on first down. 11 passes. They were 5 of 11, 51 yards on first down. That is not a good clip. So they set themselves up for, second and long and third and long a lot. Now you have a next level elite quarterback in CJ Stroud, who last year he had more completions to convert third and 10 plus yards to go. Then he had more of those completions and conversions than any other quarterback in the league. So he can do it. I just don't know if it's wise going up against a Brian Flores coach defense if you want to be in a third and long. As we talked about, third and long is when the odds finally flip in favor of the defense. And that's what he did against the 49ers. That was so masterful that on situationally on those critical downs, he was able to present some exotic, diverse looks that Brock Purdy himself was confused by, which held the 49ers to be 2 of 10 on third down. And I believe they were 1 of 3 on fourth down. And that was the game in a nutshell. Yeah, they sacked him, Purdy, I think 4 times, and they forced 2 turnovers as well. So that was a big part of it. But it was more about how Brian Flores was able to win the chess match against Kyle Shanahan, my boy Shanahan, and it was on those third downs. And I worry because that's a Shanahan offense, and Bobby Slowick runs a Shanahan offense, right? And they're trying to achieve a lot of the same things, and they do it by a lot of the same means that Brian Flores now has a really good, effective blueprint versus the original Shanahan on how to handle this offense and how to counter them on critical downs, on money downs. And the Texans, that is one of their weaknesses. It was last year. It is this year. Last year, they were 37% conversion rate on third down. This year, they're at 39%, slightly improved, but they're not elite. They're average to the middle of the road third down team. And if he can keep them in third and long, and now going up against an absolute diabolical mind when it comes to third down, pre-snap disguise, confusion. I always say that Brian Flores' defense he disguises the disguise. And it's like, it's already disguised. Why are you disguising the disguise? He did in the game versus the 49ers. It was so freaky. They had a cover 2 where the corners were the deep half defenders. So the corners dropped and were responsible for the deep half, and the safeties came down and were responsible for the flat. Just freaky stuff. That doesn't. Why would you even do that? Like, you're like, so what? If you're a quarterback looking at it, you're trying to decipher and process what coverage it is based on the pre-snap and then based on the movement of the safeties after. And imagine the safeties were down in the box, corners down like they were playing press man. You're thinking, oh, damn, they're in zero. Safeties out in the box. There's no deep safeties. Corners down. They're playing zero coverage on this third down, which is what Brian Flores is known for. He's known for some of his zero pressures. And then at the snap, the safeties shoot out to the flats to cover the flats, to put on curl flat defenders. And then the corners just bail out and become half defenders. And you're Brock Purdy processing going, oh, I think the corners are the half defender. And by then it's too late. Because he disguises to disguise. So his offense defense are mysteries wrapped in riddles. And I think, the fact that he can create chaos and confusion on so many levels, you don't want your quarterback having to deal with that on third down a lot. because that's when he gets real freaky and exotic, is on third and medium and third and long, because he knows that's when the odds are in his favor, and he knows you got to throw the football, that you're gonna throw the football. So you want to avoid that if you're Texans. You got to try to win on first down. That's going to be big. Nico Collins is going to be big because Brian Flores loves to blitz, and he, is really good at it. Or his team is really good at it. He's really good at disguising the blitz. I got these numbers from NFL Live. And we know the Texans have had some issues in pass protection so far this year. The Vikings defense, when they're blitzing so far this season, they have blitzed on the most dropbacks. They have the most sacks when blitzing. They have the most pressures when blitzing. And they have the most quarterback contacts and quarterback hits when blitzing. They're good at it. They're good at it. And that's something that the Texans, you want to stay out of predictable passing situations where they know you're going to throw, and then they can dial up the blitz, which they're really good at. I will say that Nico Collins is also really good at identifying the blitz. This is key. People don't think about this enough. They always put the blitz identification on the quarterback, and it is primarily. But everybody's got to recognize the blitz. O-line's got to recognize it. The receivers got to recognize it because they're the hot routes. They can't run the wrong route. They got to have the right side adjustment. So they got to recognize it's a blitz too. So they recognize, okay, now what's my hot route? What's my hot adjustment for the quarterback when he's going to be blitzed? And so with that being said, some receivers are better at identifying the blitz and being able to, work their way through coverage or work their way open versus blitz and whatever coverage is on the back of it. Actually, Brian Flores, he blitzes with a lot of zone behind it, which is also a little unorthodox. And he'll blitz with zone behind it, but he'll have the alignment of the DBs as if they're playing man, but they'll play it with zone eyes, but from a man alignment. It's just he does it. He's unorthodox, and it does a lot to confuse and discombobulate opposing quarterbacks. But getting back to Nico Collins, who might be right now, he's leading the NFL in receiving, guys, at 252. I believe he's got close to 50 more yards than the second leading receiver in the league. So Nico Collins is balling. Right now, FanDuel has him as the odds-on favorite to lead the NFL in receiving. We'll see. He's going up against Justin Jefferson, who's the best receiver in the league. You outperform him, maybe that's a start. Nico is really good versus the blitz, though. 62% of the yards that CJ Stroud, basically 62% of Stroud's passing yards versus the blitz this year have come to Nico Collins. So he looks for Nico when they're blitzing. So when they're going to be blitzing, expect Nico to have a big day versus the Vikings. So I like the matchup. I think the Texans are going to win, so I don't want people to get freaked out. But it's compelling in so many ways because I'm not really sure how the Texans are going to approach it. On defensively, shutting down Justin Jefferson and applying pressure, and then offensively, how they're going to handle Brian Flores' kind of diabolical defensive mind when he had a lot of success versus another Shanahan game plan, Shanahan scheme just last week. Third down, first down, third down, gonna be big in this matchup and how they handle the blitz. All right, there you go. That's I think that's all I got for. I'll have some more stuff on this matchup tomorrow. That's all I got for it right now. I want to get into the Cowboys matchup versus the Ravens. So we'll table that discussion and we'll dive into it next segment in Rod's Rant. We'll dive into the Cowboys and the Ravens, and I'll give you a nugget about tonight's matchup between the Jets and between the Patriots. I'm picking the Jets in this matchup based on this factoid I'll share with you on the other side. We'll do that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Beavers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. There are a couple of nuggets I want to share about the Dallas Cowboys before we hear from Mike Zimmer, and I think the Mike Zimmer sound may frustrate you a little bit too. But I found these stats, a couple of stats about the Dallas Cowboys and their performance versus the New Orleans Saints, and it led me down a rabbit hole. And I think one of the biggest issues, and maybe the biggest issues with the Cowboys, I think is the guts of that defense, the interior D line, based off what I've seen, and then based off some of these numbers. So here's the first one that I want to share. The Cowboys defense has made contact with opposing rushers behind the line of scrimmage on 31% of the carries this season. That is the fourth lowest rate in the NFL. They have also allowed the fourth most yards after contact per carry, 3.9 so far this season. And if you're looking at the defensive tackles, because to me, when you start talking about, not getting a push, not being able to initially get some penetration at the point of attack, initially when the ball is high, that's on your interior D line, right? They're not getting enough for push, not enough penetration to disrupt the play in the backfield. And I looked at the Pro Football Focus run defense grades of the D tackles for for the Cowboys, Sunday. And I didn't realize they were this bad, but at least based on our Pro Football Focus run defense grades, they may have played some of the worst games of their career. Mozzie Smith, 30.3 grade. Ozil Adigizua, and we probably thought that he's undersized and he's more of a pass rushing D tackle. 29.6 Pro Football Focus run defense grade. Linval Joseph, 29.2. Jordan Phillips, 26.1 Pro Football Focus run defense grade. And yeah, I mean, those numbers are really low, but they track considering what we saw and what we witnessed. And then I saw that, I was wondering, I was like, okay, so I wonder what kind of blocking scheme the Saints, utilized and deployed. Did they use a lot of double teams, just knock those D tackles back with double teams, knock them into the face of the linebackers? And apparently they did not. There was not a lot of duo. There was not a lot of that at the point of attack. It was kind of man-on-man blocking. My guy against your guy, and their guy was better. According to Pro Football Focus, John Owning, Oza Odigizua currently has the highest double team rate on Dallas at 44%, but that's 52nd among D tackles in the league. So it's not a high rate of being double teamed. Dallas's nose tackles are basically double teamed even less. Mozzie is at 34% double team rate. So remember I told you about D tackles and how these days you got to do two things. You need to be, either a disruptor, right, in the run game, and the elite run defender in the run game, where teams are forced to double team you. And if they're forced to double team you, then you flip the numbers advantage. So you can play with a lighter box, but my D tackle, it takes two of your O linemen to block my one D tackle. So, hey, numbers advantage is nullified. Doesn't matter as much. Or your D tackles are so massive, which they tried getting Jordan Phillips and Linval Joseph. Those are two massive D tackles where they can take up a gap and a half, essentially, with their sheer size, mass, and technique. And the Cowboys aren't doing any of that. Their D tackles can't do any of that. And so if you can block the Cowboys D tackles one-on-one, then you can always win the numbers battle against the Dallas Cowboys. So I think their issue starts right at the point of attack at D tackle. And I'm not going to, say that they haven't tried. I mean, Mozzie Smith was them trying to infuse some talent and upgrade the talent at D tackle. And they tried. They drafted him in 2023. It just has not worked out. I don't know if it is going to work out with Mozzie Smith. They're giving it every chance. Matter of fact, I just saw today, he left practice early today or yesterday. Left practice early yesterday and didn't practice. His back seized up on him, taking the field for warm-ups. So he's actually, that's another injury concern at D tackle too. And maybe their pride's hurt and now it's leading to injuries. But Cowboys D tackle Jordan Phillips, he was asked about a wrist injury because the wrist injury has landed him on the IR. He's on IR right now. And when they asked him about it, he said, I don't know. That's above my pay grade. You have to ask the people making the decisions. He was frustrated and said his wrist was fine, but they put him on IR. I think we know why. They're like, hey, no, man, you good. We got to find somebody else. You get on IR. Get us another roster spot open so we can go get us a D tackle.
You better be hurt playing like that.
Exactly. You better, yeah. Don't be telling people you were fine. Say, yeah, man, my wrist, that wrist is killing me, man. It's killing me. That's why I was so ineffective versus the Saints. Yeah, I mean, they were back. Oza Odigizua, he's the only one that was, we'll hear from Michael. Michael was also, I think, pretty honest about it. When they asked Oza Odigizua about the D tackles versus the Saints in the run game, he said, it was probably the worst game of my career, to be honest. Good for you. Good for you. You know what? It starts with just being honest with the man in the mirror. You know what? I was bad. I'm better than that. That does not define my career. That does not define me as a player. But every player has been there. I had those moments too. It's like, I gotta admit that was bad. I was bad. I did not play a very good game. I'm one of the reasons my team lost. I got to go in there. Just the film room is where you really have to feel it, because in the film room it's coming where you're in the dark, you're in front of all your teammates, and coach is he's gonna call you out in that those 3-4 plays where you played absolutely like doggish, and he's gonna rewind it and go back. He's gonna spend like 2 minutes on that one play, just rewinding and asking you questions. That basically these questions the whole time. What were you thinking? Why did you do this? Why? Look at your hands. Why are your hands here? What is wrong with your feet? What do you? And you don't even answer the question. You just let him go. And then at one point he's gonna ask you, "Oh, you hear me talking to you?" You're like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." And then you answer the questions, because at first you try to answer all the questions, you're just gonna put yourself in the bed. It's like when your wife is drilling you. You don't answer all the questions. You just let her go off for a while, and then once she's done, then you gotta get your input in. But for the Cowboys, they have tried to revamp the D tackle room. They tried in 2021. That's when they drafted Odigizua, Chauncey Golston, Quinton Bohanna, and they signed Carlos Watkins. They tried, it just didn't work out that well, and ever since then they've been piecemealing it. They brought Jonathan Hankins. They traded for Jonathan Hankins, excuse me. Piecemealed it in. They re-signed Hankins. Then drafting Mozzie Smith, I'll admit it just didn't work out. I'll give them credit for that, though. They tried, but ever since they need to address it. It needs to be addressed. It's your biggest issue right now. I think when we talked about why they have the same issues trying to defend power run concepts from last season, right? Buffalo lined up in 22 and 12 personnel and ran it down their throat with James Cook. Arizona did it early on in the season last year, just running power concepts, downhill running game on you. The Miami Dolphins, they were running that Shanahan zone blocking scheme, which also gives the Cowboys trouble. That's why they can't beat the 49ers in the playoffs in back-to-back years. And then Green Bay, also one of those teams who also runs that Shanahan zone blocking scheme. Cowboys had issues with that last season with Aaron Jones in the playoffs. The Cowboys have three issues in the run game, in my opinion. Downhill running game, which is why you go look at when you start looking at their matchup versus the Saints, how many snaps was Derek Carr under center against the Cowboys? 42 of 56 snaps. 42 of 56 snaps, guys. Now, they were under center 61% of the time, I believe, in week one. It was 61% of the time there. But against the Cowboys, they upped that thing. 3/4 of their damn snaps, 75% of them. And why? So they can run downhill. You want your quarterbacks, your running backs with a running start, running downhill, hitting that gap with a ton of momentum. That's exactly what they did. And there are other teams that did it against the Cowboys last year too. 2-back sets give them issues. And what the Saints do? They lined up in a ton of 2-back sets. They were in 2-back sets 53% of the time. Why? Because Clint Kubiak is from the Kubiak tree, which is from the Shanahan tree. And so that's part of their DNA. And he gives the Cowboys issues. So that's why even the Bills did it last year. And that's what the Dolphins do anyway. And they put it on them last year with 2-back sets. And of course, the 49ers, they use 2-back sets and 12 personnel too, power sets. And I think the other thing that oftentimes the Cowboys have struggled with is just, like I said, that Shanahan zone blocking scheme. So downhill running game, power running game, 2-back sets, multi-back sets, power sets, I'll include in there too. And they have an issue with the Shanahan zone blocking scheme. So if it wasn't for the McShanahan coaching tree taking over the NFL, and if it wasn't for the Cowboys now through multiple DCs having this same systemic issue, I wouldn't say the Cowboys should be concerned, but I think they should be very concerned, because I think the Baltimore Ravens may also try to replicate some of those concepts versus the Cowboys, even though right now they're in a spread phase, right? They are pacing space. They have a spread ideology closer to being an air raid more than anything. They do have Derrick Henry, who is from a downhill power run game with the Tennessee Titans, most prolific running back in the NFL in the last 6 years. And they do have the most prolific and the most dynamic dual threat quarterback maybe ever in NFL history. And he won his first MVP with a team that ran power sets, multi-back sets, 12 personnel, and power packages and power personnel groupings. So they could go back to some of it because it's in their DNA. They may not go under center, but they can do it from the pistol and have Derrick Henry running downhill on the Cowboys. If they get outside of their identity, all right, which is a spread offense right now, to attack the Cowboys' specific weakness in the run game, then we know.
Yeah. At what point do you have to, in this game, like what's the barometer of this is not going to be fixable? You have to trade for somebody on both sides of the ball in the running game. At what point is it you have to go out like the same? I mean, a couple of years ago they went out and got Hankins.
They did,
and that was we have to go get somebody. They got him in, and it helped. So it's not even saying you have to go get an Pro Bowler. You don't have to get one of the best players. You just have to get somebody who's a run stopper, who is good enough to be it in the league, as opposed to guys who didn't have jobs for a reason. And then trying to get them to piecemeal. Mozzie Smith is at this point a bust. Yeah. And maybe it'll be there, but right now he's played in half a game, and
you can't count on it.
And he didn't get a tackle, doesn't have any stats yet. He's got less tackles than Dak Prescott right now. Not a great stat for a defensive lineman. But
pretty good.
But if you say what's the point? Is it 200 yards rushing, 250? We go like, it's not even remotely close to. It's not like, well, they just ran downhill on us and they focused on that, so they got 180 yards on us, but they only passed for 90 or something, and they just ran the ball, so they're gonna get yards. Is it that, or is it 250? Like, where at what point do you start to go, no, this is unsustainable? Every team is going to start doing this on you. You're not making the playoffs. You're not doing anything if you don't fix this.
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a good question. I just think if it's the reason you lose that game, if it's the reason you lose it because you can't stop it, right? You can't make an adjustment to it. And if it's not just one run concept, like sometimes teams, they have a tough time stopping the lead or a tough time stopping an off tackle play, and then you make adjustments and the team has to counter some of the way. But for the Cowboys, it seemed like everything was working for the Saints running the football. And so I think if they abandon their spread concepts, not abandon, but if you see them mixing in a lot more power packages and power personnel grouping so that they can run downhill on the Cowboys, then I think then you still should do something about it, because that means that they're going to try to modify their identity just to attack a specific weakness for you.
Yeah.
And if the Ravens would do it, then everybody would try to do it. The good teams and the bad teams. So, it's hard to put a number on it. You'll know it when you see it.
Yeah.
You'll know it while you're watching, looking at it going,
we say that. But would Jerry know that?
I hope so. Hope he's still got enough, football knowledge and wherewithal.
Apparently they got a lot of depth in the running back room.
That is true. He did say that. He did say that.
I mean, just because
he did say that.
they're all D's. So, I mean, if you have three guys that are all rated the same, that means there's depth, right?
Yeah, not double D's, not the good kind. Those are bad D's. But Mike Zimmer, remember he said they needed D tackles though, right at one time in training.
He said they needed noses. Yeah, so they needed noses.
He said they need D tackles, and I think maybe that's still kind of the issue. Can we hear from Mike Zimmer? He was speaking to the media earlier this week about the Saints, that Saints matchup and the disastrous rush defense. But he also was being asked about personnel groupings and DeMarvion Overshown playing less. He only played, I think, 18 snaps in that game versus in that second game versus Saints, but he played 44, I believe, in the first game versus the Browns. But here's Mike Zimmer. It's a little frustrating hearing him say what he says here in this clip about some of the things that that were unexpected, that was surprising to him in that matchup versus the Saints. Here is Mike Zimmer.
Is that, we've got some linebackers that we like. The week before, we didn't anticipate being in so much subgroup packages. This week, we didn't anticipate being in quite so many base down packages. So, each week is going to be different for each guy. And, talking about Demo, he's coming off an ACL, missed all of spring, didn't really get out there until we got to OTA. So he's working his way back in, and that will continue to go forward as we go. But, he's going to get plenty of reps.
I think he will get a lot of reps because you're going to need somebody to spy that can run sideline to sideline against Lamar Jackson. But I'm so sad when he said they weren't prepared to play in a lot of base against New Orleans. Guys, New Orleans in week 1, they were in 2-back sets, a league high 37% of the plays. they were in 12 personnel, which is 1 back, 2 tight ends, 27% of the time. They were in a lot of power personnel group, and he's like, yeah, we didn't expect to play a lot of base. Why not? Like, why not? Against the Cowboys, they were in 2-back sets 53% of the time. He's a Kubiak. Kubiak is from the Shanahan clan. They all love 2-back sets. I was a little disappointed to hear Zim say that. I'm like, come on, Zim. You should be ready for that, man.
Yeah.
You should be ready for the base. Like that's what they did that in week 1. Why wouldn't you have an adjustment ready for that in week 2? Or at
We
least
thought they were going to play to our strengths. Come on now.
Exactly right. I'm like, what is going on? Anyway, so that's Zim. We played the Micah sound earlier. Basically, Micah says that there was a lack of, did he say a lack of effort, basically?
Yes. A lack of effort from all 11 on field.
So
he's putting himself in it, but also at the same part, it's not just a lack of effort. Because Micah was trying to sack a quarterback who never had the football.
True that.
That's the thing is effort is one thing, but just a completely wrong game plan and trying to do things and not ever shifting what you did. So your linebackers are making every tackle in the game because your defensive line's not trying to stop the run. And I mean, I guess the defensive tackles were trying and just couldn't do it, but Lawrence and Parsons weren't really trying to stop the run.
Yeah, they both got bullied in that game. I ain't gonna lie about that. And I was surprised because DeMarcus Lawrence actually is pretty good against the run. For Micah, it's always been an issue, but DeMarcus Lawrence actually used to be pretty stout versus the run. So for him to have that kind of performance too, along with what we just described to you about the D tackles and Micah, that's his natural weakness as a player. Yeah, I can't wait to see what Baltimore does. If Baltimore goes to this game and they're throwing the football all over the place, I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if we don't see just more run game design runs for Lamar, downhill running game from Derrick Henry in this game versus the Dallas Cowboys. And remember, they're 0-2 guys, and they can't fall to 0-3. It's a death sentence in terms of your playoff hopes. Your playoff hopes are dead if you're 0-3 in the league. At least the stats would say that. Recent history would suggest that's the case. So Baltimore don't want to be that.
And them and the Bengals are in the same division trying to fight out of those 0-2s already.
Ooh, yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. Desperate times call for desperate measures. It's going to be a very desperate Baltimore team. And they're going to play like it's a playoff game for them. Because essentially in their mind, it basically is they can't start 0-3. What's the last time a John Harbaugh team started 0-3?
I don't know.
I don't know if he's ever started 0-3.
He ain't planning on doing it this year either.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah, because if it starts 0-3, I mean, usually that's, like I said, that's doomsday for you. All right, we come back. We'll get into who said that. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that. We'll play it when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when Patrick comes up with a very creative new theme for each Thursday, inspired by something or another. And the inspiration today is fall. He's ready for fall. He's tired of summer. He's tired of the 90-degree temperatures. He wants some football weather. So all the songs have fall in the title or mention fall in the title. And so he's trying to summon fall, to conjure fall. And I think we all could use a little bit of fall weather. So we appreciate Patrick hooking us up with a new theme Thursday. We also appreciate him hooking us up the topic for the big fat poll of the day, which is already posted on the X account at the Horn ATX. Go check it out for yourself. And Patrick simply wants to know which one-loss team in college football has the best chance to make the playoffs. LSU, Notre Dame, Michigan, or Clemson. And right now, Notre Dame leading the way with 41% of the vote. Right now, you can go check that out and go vote for yourself. All right, before we get out of here, we got to play Who Said That? That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, hopefully you can recall and identify who said that.
What about his coaching style, or what about his kind of like teaching philosophy lends itself to such good like running production?
He's a great coach. I mean, one of the best I've ever been around. Like Moses, I'm gonna die leaning on my staff. Greg Roman, Jesse Minner, Ryan Fick, and those coordinators are, in my opinion, some of the best in the business. And
oh my God, such a great line, Jim Harbaugh. Well done again.
Again.
It's just the delivery was good too. Very dry, methodical delivery. Yeah, and like Moses, I'm gonna die leaning on my staff. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
just drops it in there.
Right.
Like it's not like he's not going to get quoted on that one.
That was great. Oh man, he easily the most played coach in our Who Said That segment, our person. Period.
Oh yeah, he's got to be like the most quotable. I mean, between him and
There's no
Dion,
doubt.
he's got to be pro now in Dion's college.
Yep, you're right about that. Yeah, you're right. Because Harbaugh's had a ton of them already. I love that. Like Moses, I'm gonna die leaning on my staff. Man, that's good. That's really good. Okay, how about this one? I told you I'd give you that nugget about tonight's game before we get out of here. This is why I'm choosing the Jets tonight. Teams off of an overtime game with 4 days rest or less versus a foe not off of an overtime game are 3-23 against the spread since 2002. That's the 11.5%.
Yeah.
So
that's a good.
So in terms of the spread, I don't know about I don't know. I haven't looked at the spread. I don't even know what it is, but I'm just giving you that factoid because the Patriots went to an overtime game in week 2, right? They
yes,
just went to an overtime
against the Seahawks, yeah.
Against the Seahawks. So the Jets did not go to overtime. So it was 4 days rest or less, 3-23 against the spread. I would not take the Patriots to cover that number, whatever it is. Don't even know what it is. I don't need to know. I just give you the facts. All right. Thank you, Patrick, for all you do, brother. Appreciate all the hard work and appreciate all of the creativity. That's why we call you the Ideallionaire. Once again, thanks to you guys for listening. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Join us tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Until then, hook 'em and peace.